In a maximum security prison packed with the most dangerous criminals, a teacher volunteered to teach them science. What could go wrong? Everything. These inmates weren't normal. They had crazy talents and insane strength. The teacher became an easy target because they thought he knew how to make mist, a drug that makes people way stronger. Among all these bizarre psychos, there was one guy who just wanted to learn how to grow potatoes. Number 182. A guy with no name and only one arm, a man of few words, with a single goal: protect his potato. 182 becomes the teacher's guardian angel in there. The teacher got really lucky, because the other science teacher who also passed through there was getting humiliated and treated like trash by every single prisoner. This 182 might look like just another regular inmate, but he's actually the most dangerous one in there. One time he took a brutal beating, and they broke all 5 of his fingers, but he didn't make a sound. Some crazy guy tried to swallow the mist pill right in front of him, so 182 bit the guy's jaw clean off, just to get the drug back. In the cafeteria, a giant pulled a knife out of his own stomach to kill the teacher right there. 182 threw a fork that went straight through the guy's arm and pinned it to the wall. Then he wrecked the guy's spine with a single knee strike. The whole place froze in fear. The problem is the teacher's got nowhere to go. If he stays in prison, sooner or later the bosses will get to him. If he tries to escape, he could get eaten by the monsters guarding the place. This story is insane, so let's just get into it and find out how he makes it out of this alive. Let's get it. A harsh desert stretches out, filled with wind and falling rocks. Then the silence breaks as an armored convoy races across it. Inside one van, 6 people sit stiffly, shaken by the ride, or by something worse. One of the 2 guards reminds them they were likely briefed already. Stay in the assigned area, and don't say or do anything that could set the prisoners off. For now, that's all he'll say. They need to be extremely careful. After the silence drags on, Lara turns to the person beside her and introduces herself, saying she's here to teach science. Dante Kang introduces himself too, and says he's also teaching science. They shake hands. Lara says that's a nice coincidence, and he guesses science got the most volunteers. Then the others start introducing themselves too. One teaches ethics, another teaches music. The last 2 are here for math and art, which apparently weren't popular either. The music teacher admits he can finally breathe. The silence until now was getting creepy. Looking outside, the ethics teacher says everyone was tense. Who would have thought they'd end up here? Fogland, the biggest prison in the world, a place people compare to hell. Lara laughs it off and tells him not to scare everyone. Besides, it's just an international prison. What could go wrong? That only makes it sound worse, the ethics teacher says. Then he asks if she knows how Fogland came to be. 50 years ago, a huge meteor crashed right into the desert. 5 years after that, the world's major powers worked together and built a prison over it. The music teacher lights up, saying that's why the internet is full of wild stories, like Fogland being used to lock up aliens. The ethics teacher says that's basically it. He lowers himself and drops his voice, so only the group can hear. One scholar even said Fogland opened the gates of hell, so maybe they're heading in to teach monsters. Dante gives an awkward laugh and wonders if teachers really believe stuff like that. People live everywhere, and everyone deserves an education, no matter who they are. The ethics teacher asks if he truly isn't scared. Rumors or not, this is still an international prison full of top-level criminals. He says he isn't. To him, they're just people who never got proper education, or at least that's how he sees it. The others just stare at him. Then a guard cuts in after getting a message on the radio. They're only 5 minutes away from entering Fogland. Through the van's barred windows, they catch their first look at the prison entrance. It's a huge wall of steel. A banner hangs over the entrance, likely made by the prisoners. The guards tell the teachers not to take photos and not to touch their belongings until everything is turned in. Dante glances around and thinks that even if he wanted pictures, he couldn't take any through all this fog. It's so thick he can barely see anything. Well, this is Fogland. Another guard explains that once they hand over their things, they'll be escorted to their assigned classrooms and must follow instructions for everyone's safety. Dante figures the man is just trying to intimidate them. Soon, the teachers are separated. He stays composed, even if the mood gets to him. It's just a place where people live, he tells himself. Then he's taken to his classroom and finds an isolation room that completely separates him from the students. To him, it feels way over the top. He knocks on the reinforced glass and wonders how he's supposed to teach through that barrier. Just then, a guard opens the door and says the prisoners are about to come in. Until the class end signal goes off, Dante is not to leave his seat for any reason, or they can't promise he'll be safe. He stares ahead, a little horrified by what's coming. The classroom door opens, and guards shove the prisoners inside. These aren't what he expected. Every one of them looks strange and inhuman. Dante's stomach drops as he looks from one prisoner to the next. But they have to be human, right? Even so, how is he supposed to teach someone like that? The one with his neck propped up, or the one with no eyes? For a second he remembers the ethics teacher's warning about monsters. Dante forces himself back to reality. That's nonsense. He needs to stay calm. People live here, after all. He straightens up and grabs the mic in his room. After introducing himself, he decides to start with an icebreaker. From what he heard, there were probably more exciting classes like art and music, but science got the most interest. Maybe they're all trying to build a rocket and escape. The joke dies instantly. Only one prisoner laughs. The hairy one seems to like it. Dante feels like cringing himself to death. Still, he pushes on. Forget rockets. He'll start with something easier and more fun. Today's lesson is about getting closer to nature. On each desk is a sweet potato. Normally, this would be an elementary school lesson. Most prisoners with world-class criminal labels grew up around gangs and crime, so this kind of activity is probably new to them. At first it may seem simple, but with a cup, some water, and a little care, they'll watch the sweet potato grow, and maybe learn the value of life through it. He keeps going, saying that even though everyone in Fogland is marked as dangerous, they still came here to learn today. They're like these sweet potatoes, able to grow no matter where they're planted. So starting today, they'll grow sweet potatoes together. One prisoner reacts right away. The one whose head looks exactly like a sweet potato asks if Dante is calling him one too. He quickly says that's not what he meant. He hadn't even noticed the shape of his head. Then he cuts himself off when he sees several prisoners already biting into the raw potatoes. He tells them not to eat them. They're supposed to grow them. Then he stops and wonders what these people even are. They weren't forced to come, so why show up if they don't want to learn? Suddenly, one of them speaks up. He tells Dante to quit talking nonsense and explain how to make fog. He is caught off guard, but then tries to make sense of it. Fogland is covered in fog, so maybe they're curious about how it forms. The prisoner gets irritated. What kind of science teacher doesn't know fog? Dante says he's just a teacher, and assumes the guy must be joking. Then the reinforced glass in front of him suddenly cracks like a spider web, as the prisoner slams his head into it. He screams, completely shocked by what just happened, and calls out to the guards that a prisoner is breaking the glass. Then it hits him. Wasn't this supposed to be reinforced? Before he can think any further, the guards rush in through the door, guns raised, and shout just one thing to Dante: get down. They immediately open fire on the prisoners, while he ducks behind the cracked glass. As the shooting keeps going, he pounds on the door and yells at them to stop. A guard orders him to stay put until every prisoner is dead. Dante can barely breathe. He asks if they're really going to kill them all. Whatever those prisoners did, they can't just execute them. He falls silent when the eyeless prisoner grabs a guard with one hand and crushes his skull through the reinforced helmet. Blood and gore spray everywhere as the prisoners, more like beasts than people, tear through the guards without a hint of mercy. They don't care at all. Dante starts hyperventilating. His vision narrows as he begins to black out, but before he loses consciousness, he notices one prisoner who never touched his potato and hasn't moved at all. The strange part is, that prisoner is looking right back at him. Prisoner 182. Dante suddenly stirs awake. The first thing he notices is a fan that probably hasn't worked in years. Someone is crouched beside him, and when he focuses, he sees it's a prisoner. The man watches him rise, blue eyes locked on his. They stay like that for a moment, until Dante finally asks who he is. That's when he looks around and realizes he's trapped here, in this place. He asks where they are, and the prisoner says it's his house. Dante is thrown off, but as he studies him, his thoughts settle. He really is standing in front of a prisoner. Still, he tries to piece together what happened. All he remembers is the riot, the guards rushing in, shooting at the prisoners, and then getting butchered. After that, he blacked out. Dante asks if this is inside the prison, and the prisoner nods. He asks if this is Fogland, and gets another nod. He starts putting it together. Was this prisoner the one who brought him here? Another nod. Then the prisoner sets the potato from class in front of him. He wants Dante to teach him how to grow sweet potatoes. He feels his whole world drop. He thought this was just ignorance, but this goes way past common sense. He starts shaking with anger, his breathing turning shallow as he bursts out, furious that he was dragged into a nest of psychopaths over something as stupid as sweet potatoes. His thoughts spin. This is dangerous. The ethics teacher was right. These things aren't normal. They tear people apart until nothing is left. He's going to die. He's really going to die. Then he notices the prisoner seems to be hiding something behind his back with his right hand. At once, his mind clears. Instinct takes over. He slams his shoulder into the prisoner, knocking him down and wrapping both hands around his throat. Dante thinks he has the advantage. Compared to the others, this guy seems manageable. If he stays calm, he can control this. Now he just needs to take away the hidden weapon. When he checks, the prisoner isn't holding anything at all. That hand is empty. Dante settles down and ties the prisoner to the bed with his tie. He says sorry for getting rough, but this idiot put him in danger. Being kidnapped inside a prison is insane. So he wants to grow sweet potatoes, right? He says sorry again, but he can't teach something that dumb. He tells him to just eat the potato and starts wondering when the guards will show up, or at least when food is served. He looks outside and figures the prison should be locked down after that riot. Security has to be searching for him. The second he spots a guard or anyone in charge, he's getting out. But the fog is so thick he can't see anything. He yells for help and shoves at the door, but it suddenly clicks open. As he wonders why a prison door would be unlocked, he steps out and finally sees where he really is. This isn't a prison block at all. It's like a packed slum, with countless shacks built around a giant crater. He drops to the ground. There's no way this is a prison. Panicking again, he screams and demands to know where he was taken. Where the hell is this? Then 182 covers his mouth and tells him to shut up. He's been yelling the whole time. He's drawing attention. Since he can't leave, he needs to stay quiet and live. Dante can't believe it. Here, in this dump, he says he's a citizen. He doesn't belong with the trash living here, especially not with him. A fat prisoner suddenly shows up above them, and he just freezes. He notices the scars across his body, and that blank, hard-to-read face. Dante starts tearing up, realizing the insult wasn't aimed at him. 182 glares at the prisoner and asks what he's staring at. Before he can do anything, the fat prisoner lands a punch, and Dante ends up half naked on his floor. 182 only says he warned him to stay quiet. He snaps that this is all his fault. Now even his clothes are gone. Why does he keep doing dumb things that get them both in trouble? Does he never think? Why pick a fight with a monster like that when he's missing an arm? Then he rises from where he was sitting, and he thinks he went too far. Seeing him slowly take off his clothes doesn't help either. He instantly apologizes. Sure, he's about to become someone's bride, but instead, 182 hands over his jumpsuit and tells him to put it on. Dante is stunned by what just happened, and by his scar-covered fit body. As he puts on the jumpsuit, he tells himself he needs to be more careful. While zipping it up, he realizes rescue workers might not recognize him in this. As 182 digs through his stuff, he says no rescue team is coming. The guards are dead. It's safer if Dante doesn't stand out. That's how things work in Fogland. Then he gives him another outfit, a much dirtier jumpsuit, and says it's time to eat. Hearing that, he gets an idea. If it's mealtime, maybe he'll run into a guard. Elsewhere in the prisoner city, the fat prisoner cheerfully hums, happy that the stolen suit fits him perfectly. The glasses looked cool too. Maybe he should have taken those as well. Then someone calls him honey and asks where he got the outfit. The fat prisoner quickly bows as low as he can and says he found a nerd in the tofu village, a glasses-wearing new guy. The boss says, so that's where he was. The fat prisoner agrees. The guy wore fancy clothes, so he took them because they looked cute. Without warning, the boss drives a blade into the fat prisoner's head. He drops dead on the spot. The boss doesn't even wipe off the blood. He just smiles. He finally found the one he wanted, their dear teacher. Dante looks around and sees only endless concrete and people who blend into it like camouflage. Their eyes look like hungry animals. He keeps walking, holding a piece of rebar beside 182, wondering if these things are even human. This is Fogland. He first thought it was a prison, but it's more like a jungle. He asks if this really is a prison. It's too weird. Who even built it? 182 just says, what? That makes Dante speak louder. This place is insane. People walk around freely, and some even look drunk. And those three over there, are they supposed to be decorations or what? Fogland was built by the United Nations. How did it turn into a hell like this? He tells him to be quiet because he's too loud. Dante catches himself. Why is he expecting nice answers from this guy? Is this some kind of Stockholm thing? The man beside him is a kidnapper, and his eyes look just like the others. He's just as dangerous, so he can't trust him. They head to a place called the Chow Hall, where people really are eating, almost like it's normal. He grabs a tray too and can't believe how ordinary it all seems. Then he looks past the line and notices something. A real guard standing among the prisoners. A smile spreads across his face. He can hardly believe it. Still, he forces himself to stay calm. Right now, he looks like another inmate. He needs to act as proper as possible and show he's not like these monsters. After 182 asks for extra ham and gets turned down, it's Dante's turn. He asks the man if he's a guard, and the man says yes. He steps closer and explains he's a teacher assigned to the inmate education project. He was kidnapped during the riot by the masked man on his right, who can clearly hear all this. The guard probably knows about the riot. If not, he needs to contact his superiors right away. They must be searching for him. Then Dante notices drool hanging from the man's mouth and looks into his eyes, only to find almost nothing there. Before he can ask what's wrong, the server smacks him over the head and tells him to leave if he isn't ordering. Dante ends up with a tray of plain food, and while another prisoner eats from it, he just stares, crushed. He wonders about those empty eyes. Was that really not a guard? No, he had the uniform. He even had a badge, but there are no other guards anywhere. Are they searching for him? What is going on? Deep down, Dante knows something is very wrong, and he's completely screwed. At this rate, he'll be trapped here forever, just like the bastard next to him. He calls 182 his student and says he wanted to learn sweet potatoes, right? This is his last shot. Dante will teach him all he wants, but in return he has to help him escape. He decides to use 182's stupidity, but he isn't nearly as dumb as he thought. He asks if he takes him for an idiot. Dante quickly says that's not what he meant. He says he brought him here to learn sweet potatoes, right? So once he teaches him, there'll be no reason to keep him here. Then he can leave, right? He stays quiet for a moment, then says the only way out is to become the supreme leader. He asks what that means. Like a boss? 182 says, someone like him could never do it anyway. He doesn't care about that. Is he saying only the top leader can reach the outside world? He lifts his fork and says, ascend or fall. That's the only way out. Dante still doesn't get it and wants a better answer, but 182 is done talking. So that's it. He was never going to help. He stands up and says there's no point staying near him. He's leaving this filthy place right now. Then, he remembers something else. If he ever gets out, the law will still judge him. He stops and walks off, thinking trash like that belongs here forever. Suddenly, someone calls for a teacher and says Dante's name. Everyone turns, and he is blinded by hope that a rescue team has finally arrived. Tears in his eyes, he shouts that he's here. His name is Count Dante, a public school science teacher, age 32. Then he cuts himself off when he sees who called him. It's a man so huge he looks taller than two people stacked together. Smiling, he bends down to his level. He says he really wanted to see him. He probably remembers, they already met. He took his potato class. Dante unconsciously steps back and says yes. How could he forget? It was the first time he'd ever seen someone that huge. The servers and prisoners around them go still, breathing slow, because this is one of the 6 shoulders of Cell 0, the tower. In that instant, Dante remembers him slaughtering the guards. He used another prisoner as a shield and complained that bringing guns was rude. Then he reached into his own mouth and pulled out a blade. After that, he carved through the guards like he was dancing to their screams. Dante drops to his knees, beaten in spirit, and asks why he's looking for him. The tower rummages through his pockets and says they need to continue class. He's not interested in sweet potatoes anymore. Now, he wants the advanced lesson, how to make fog. The moment the others see the fog, they stare at it like it's salvation, and apparently it's a lot of it. Dante remembers the man who nearly went through the glass asking about fog too. So this is fog, that blue, twisting lump. He asks what it is, and the tower looks confused. He really doesn't know. The tower clenches his fist. How can a science teacher not know? Aren't teachers supposed to know everything? Dante says he's never seen anything like this in the outside world. That only annoys the tower more. They took those classes for the fog. The 6 shoulders gathered just to bring him back for this. So the tower grabs him and says it doesn't matter if he doesn't know yet. They'll learn now. The blue, pulsing thing moves toward Dante's face, and panic takes over. The second it starts melting against his teeth, while the others drool from the corners of their mouths, he throws himself away. He wants no part of it. As soon as the fog hits the floor, the people watching dive in to snatch it. Dante can only stare in confusion as they start fighting over it. Tower doesn't get angry. He laughs. Everyone clearly wants the fog. In this place, it's like gold, almost a gift from the gods. One old man manages to swallow some, and even while others shove him around, he stays on his feet. They bite into him and rip at his flesh, but he keeps smiling. Tower mocks these filthy tofu village people for losing their minds over one chunk of fog. Still, he says that old man will at least reach heaven today. Or maybe, if he gets more fog, he'll gain some amazing talent. Then he asks if he's interested. Dante feels the bit of fog left on his teeth, starts crying, and shakes all over, before vomiting up everything in his stomach. He wonders why he ever came here. Why step into a place this awful? Was he an idiot? Timidly, he asks Tower to let him go home, then breaks down and screams that he doesn't want to be here. He can't make this stuff. He's never seen anything like it. He's not a scientist. He's just a teacher. Tower calls that a lie. He saw it in a drama. A teacher made and sold great medicine. Dante explains that was a chemistry professor, and that's totally different. He doesn't even have a doctorate. He's only a high school teacher. The whole mess hall goes quiet when he says that. Then Tower breaks the silence by asking if he's incompetent. He found the teacher first. He thought that meant he won, thought it would make him the supreme leader. As he pulls the blade from his stomach, Dante goes still. Tower rushes him, saying useless trash is good for nothing. Those words drag up memories of his father, who also called him worthless for getting a teaching certificate. He never wanted him teaching kids, because no one in their family had ever failed to get a PhD. To them, Dante was a stain on the family name, someone who hadn't passed a single paper in 6 years. His mother agreed, saying teaching was just him running away instead of trying for another thesis. His brother told them to stop, saying there was nothing wrong with being a teacher. Then he added, they should at least let him do that, since he'd already had it the hardest. He'd failed his doctorate for 6 years. That was his family. A mother with a law doctorate, and a brother who joined a psychology society at a very young age. Even he was respected when he stood at the lectern, but at home, they treated him worse than an animal. One day during dinner, Dante showed his father an article about the prison, and said it was a United Nations prison, where he'd teach inmates. It was run by the UN, and the pay was good. His brother recognized it. Fogland, the place where all the crazy people get sent. He said it sounded awesome. He corrected him. They were still people. His mother asked why he'd go so far when the school already gave him a stable paycheck. His father didn't get it either. What exactly was he trying to prove? Dante swallowed and said that giving education to people who never had much chance to learn was something valuable for a teacher. Right then, his brother spilled wine on his shirt and laughed at how grand that sounded. He said he should know better. That wasn't professionalism, just a need to be noticed. It wasn't that he failed to earn a doctorate. He was pretending he chose another road, pretending he was doing something noble. That was why he acted like he stood equal with them, trying to excuse incompetence with weird behavior. Dante asked why he was forcing his own thoughts onto him, but his brother said he was only worried, because this was reckless. Doing something like that over an inferiority complex only proved he was stupid. Now, he thinks his brother was right. He was a fool. Coming here was unbelievably stupid. Now he's about to die, trapped with monsters in this horrible place. Maybe the real idiot really was him all along. But then 182 loses his hood and hurls a fork at Tower's arm so hard it punches through and sticks into the wall. Tower drops the blade at once and howls, clutching his ruined arm. He spins around, demanding to know which bastard brought a gun, but 182 is already charging in. He grabs a fistful of Tower's hair, and in front of everyone, sets up a killing blow. His knee slams into Tower's spine, not just cracking it but completely shattering it. As Tower starts to collapse, the whole room falls speechless. He sees a Tower as his body smashes into the ground. Dante watches in shock. The prisoners whisper that a new shoulder was born today. They rush over Tower's corpse, the man they feared just seconds ago, and demand the new shoulder's name. 182 only looks at Dante and says they should leave, then grabs him and gets him out of there. Once they finally stop, he can hardly believe he's alive. His body had already given in to death. He looks at him and realizes just how strong he is. Then he asks if the sweet potato story was a lie. Why join the class at all? Was it for the fog? 182 asks if he can make fog, and Dante quickly says no. He keeps apologizing, which leaves him a little puzzled. Then he explains he only went because they said he'd get new clothes. He saw a line clogging the street, and another prisoner told him outsiders had arrived. They were going to teach them something. Since everyone was competing to get in, the prisoner told him to line up too. 182 didn't care at first, but the second he heard he'd get new clothes, he slipped into line and waited quietly for them. Dante didn't expect that answer, but then why did he save him? He says he didn't save him. He saved his new clothes, but he never taught him anything, and he even ruined those clothes by peeing on them. He hadn't realized that at all. Later, after they visit the shower room and get more clothes by questionable means, Dante starts washing the clothes he borrowed because he wants to return them. Still, he wonders about the ragged outfit 182 keeps wearing. Is it special to him? Why hang on to it if he has new clothes now? He looks confused, points at the number on it, and says it's his. He knows that, but why not throw it away? He repeats that it says him, so it's his. The other one says him too. That means both are his. Now Dante is confused too. So the dirty clothes matter too? Well, since 182 can't wash them with one arm, he decides he'll clean them too. After he finishes washing everything, they head back to his place and hang the clothes to dry. He checks his watch. It's already past the exact hour, which means a full day has passed since he got trapped here. Forget escaping. The monsters called Shoulders are still out there looking for him. After the chaos in the mess hall, they may already know where he is, so he has to get out tomorrow. Then his stomach growls, and he regrets not forcing down some of that awful soup earlier. Suddenly he notices the sweet potato 182 has been keeping. He thinks maybe he can just take a small bite. It's not like he can grow it here anyway. Before he can, he slaps it out of his hand and tells him to get lost. Defeated, Dante says he was only hungry. Can't he just have a little to eat? 182 crouches down and refuses. It's his, and he even carved his number into it. Dante thinks that's ridiculous, and asks if he's planning to grow it. Does he even know how? 182 says no, but if he kills his sweet potato, he'll kill him too. He can't believe how dumb this guy is. He talks like a little kid, and without those few words he'd seem completely primitive. Still, in a way that works out for him. He asks what if the sweet potato is already doomed. He asks why, and Dante says carving numbers into potatoes makes them sick. It's called browning. Seeing the fear in his eyes, he presses on and says there is a way to save it. Their last deal failed, so it's hard to say this, but he'll give him one tip. It needs sunlight. Fogland's fog is so thick it blocks the sun, so they need a place where the fog is thinner. 182 says this tofu village has the least fog, but Dante tells him that's still not enough. Even clothes barely dry here. At minimum, they need to reach the gate by the fortress, the entrance to Fogland. Elsewhere, a craftsman is working to build Tower the best metal support possible. Tower groans in pain and asks how long recovery will take, but one of his men tells him not to worry. They brought the best architect. Tower wanted a doctor instead. Then he asks what the hell even happened. His talent had been building in the fog for a long time. His spine was probably tougher than rebar, especially his neck, yet one hit shattered it. That stupid teacher is useless for now. He has to go after the brat, because he's probably hoarding fog somewhere. Then a familiar voice says he really did find the teacher. It's the same man who attacked Dante earlier. The others hadn't even noticed him, but he ignores that and laughs at how funny it is that Tower got his neck broken. Tower isn't happy to see him sneaking into his hideout like a rat, but the man reminds him they had an alliance. They agreed to share if either one found the teacher. Tower tells him to quit talking nonsense. He's the one who'll become supreme leader. Suddenly, the man snatches the architect's hammer and says Tower's dreams are way too big for the talent he has. Tower tells him to wait. He wouldn't attack an injured man. That would be cowardly, right? He ignores the begging. Guys like that only make him want to crush them. Then he drives the hammer into Tower's neck. This is Section Zero's Hound. After smashing everyone in the hideout, Hound faces his riders and says they're heading to Tofu Village. They get on their bikes and ride off through the prison fog. As Dante walks with 182, he asks what's in the bag since it's so heavy. He just says it's his. He then realizes he never asked his name, and he says people here call him One Arm. That only confuses him more. Doesn't he have a real name? He says that's just what people call him, but Dante thinks that's too crude, so he'll stick with him. He also asks why he wears a mask. Is he some kind of thief? And how did he end up in Fogland? He says he was always here. He has no idea what that means. He gets annoyed by all the questions. If he's a teacher, why is he the one asking? He says teachers are people too. But he keeps going. He talks too much, and he's too loud. After that, they keep walking in silence. Then Dante drops to the ground and says they need a break. He's starving and out of energy. He asks how far the entrance is. They've been walking for 2 hours, and the path just keeps repeating. 182 admits he doesn't know the way, and he snaps. Why say that only now? Did they waste 2 whole hours for nothing? This is insane. He falls back and says he can't keep going. If he wants to save that sweet potato, he better carry him or find him food. All of a sudden, he drops face first. Dante jumps up to check on him, and realizes he's badly dehydrated. He tries to wake him, scared something serious happened. But what scares him even more is being left alone here. So he shakes 182 hard, yelling for him to wake up. Suddenly, a man drops from above and lands right behind him. When Dante turns around, the man grabs his face and forces one eye open to inspect it. He sounds surprised that he seems normal. Then he apologizes for being rough. He only came over because he heard all the yelling. He and 182 are taken to what looks like an apartment building, and he gets food. He devours it without slowing down. The other person there tells him to ease up or he'll get sick. There's plenty more, so he should eat slower. He thanks them for saving him, still shocked to meet normal people here. The man introduces himself as Rambutan, and the other as Lechi. Dante gives his name too and says this is the first normal conversation he's had in this place. He also wasn't expecting to see a woman here. Lechi clings to Rambutan and asks if she really looks like one. She cut her hair to seem more like a man, since being a woman here makes you stand out. Rambutan says they came from deeper inside. The closer you get to the center, the idea of blocks basically fades away. Dante asks if there are lots of normal people there. Rambutan says not really, but Tofu Village is packed with people who got shoved aside. Then he asks if he is new, or if he just hasn't done fog yet. He explains that he's not an inmate. The full story is hard to explain right now, but the guy passed out over there kidnapped him. Rambutan asks if he means he was dragged into Fogland, then figures it must have happened during the teacher kidnapping operation. Dante awkwardly asks how they know about that, and Rambutan says everyone does. The enforcers planned it ahead of time and took over so no one else could even go to class. He realizes that's what happened. But then what were the people in administration doing? Rambutan says he never thought he'd meet the center of that mess. He asks, a little cautiously, if he's an enforcer spy. Rambutan says no. Lite asks what happened, since she's never seen an enforcer like that before. Dante says he doesn't think 182 is really an enforcer. He kidnapped him to learn how to grow a sweet potato. That makes Rambutan laugh. Of all reasons, that was the last one he expected, and he doesn't even mind. His whole situation already feels like a dark joke, so their laughter almost feels kind. When he starts crying, Rambutan stops and asks if he's being held prisoner by that guy. He says not really. Right now, he's just traveling with him like a temporary bodyguard, but he probably got heat stroke since he suddenly collapsed. Lychee says it's limbo, a kind of fog withdrawal. All those people lying around outside fell into limbo because they couldn't get fog. They usually recover, but if it keeps happening, their brains start turning to mush. Dante is stunned. Then, what exactly is fog? The two glance at each other, and Rambutan says he really knows nothing about this place. Fog is a divine drug that gives people talent. It boosts a gift they never knew they had, or one they always wanted. Dante asks if that's even possible, and Rambutan says not only is it real, it can push people past human limits. That's the power they plan to use to escape this prison. He stares at them, amazed and scared at the same time. Hound reaches 182's cell and finds it totally empty. They can't be far, but he needs to move fast since others are likely hunting him too, like Bone Eater, No Face, the Fuzzy Back, and the Drill Head. Rambutan and Lychee ask Dante if he'll come with them. He agrees at first, then hesitates. He appreciates it, but as a civilian, finding guards or the operating bureau should come first. If he gets mixed up with prisoners trying to escape, he'll definitely be charged too, assuming they even make it. And if they fail, that won't matter anymore. Rambutan gives it to him straight. He'll never reach the operating bureau, or anyone else. No one wants to come into Fogland. It's because of fog addiction. One bad step, and you can't live without it. The same can happen to Dante. He says that makes no sense. He's never used fog and doesn't plan to. Rambutan says it doesn't matter what he wants. He's been here, what, 2 or 3 days? Has he even thought about the thick mist around him? That mist itself is made of fog particles, the very thing he's been trying to avoid. Fog is the God-given gift that grants talent. To use that talent, people need huge amounts of those particles. But addiction is easier. The particles alone are enough. The fog slowly fills his lungs, and soon he'll keep craving more fog. If he can't get it, he'll end up in limbo. Dante wonders if he's already addicted, if he's already doomed. Rambutan says it's possible. Limbo is the first real sign. Everyone's tolerance is different, so he can't say when it'll hit. But Dante doesn't have time to relax. He says it plainly. Even if they escape, they're still screwed. They'll be addicts. Lychee says that's true, but even so, she's never heard of anyone leaving this place alive. Maybe one day people could recover naturally. Or if this prison gets exposed, someone might make a cure. But they promised they wouldn't die here. Rambutan agrees. Even if limbo makes them forget each other, they'll still be under the same sky someday. Dante feels irritated, but he can tell they're serious. These two truly mean every word. Then 182 wakes up. Everyone notices at once, staring at him like he just came back from the dead. Dante wonders what to do. There's no point wasting more time on that sweet potato. If he tells him he's leaving with these two, will he attack? What if he kills them too, like that other guy? 182 pulls out the sweet potato and asks if it's safe now. Dante doesn't know how to answer, and Rambutan asks why he's so scared. He's just a fog zombie. Once someone falls into limbo, they stay weak until they get fog again, so beating him would be easy. That relieves him. He was afraid they might get hurt. Rambutan tells him not to worry and lifts his leg. If 182 might be a problem, maybe they should just kill him now. Everyone goes quiet. Dante quickly stops him. There's no need to kill him. He kneels down and tells him he's leaving. He has no plan to live here, so they should go separate ways. 182 only asks about the sweet potato. So Dante takes it, puts it in a cup of water, and hands it back. If he keeps it like that, it'll grow on its own. Of course, it'll still need sunlight, so he should take it somewhere it can see the sun. 182 says he doesn't know the way, but he doesn't care. He tells Rambutan to chase him off. As for himself, he'll go with them. Shot, arrested, whatever. He just wants out of here. With that, 182 gets thrown out, still holding the cup and sweet potato. He stares at it for a long time and remembers someone from childhood asking if he knew what a puppy was, or a cat. Animals like crows, but covered in soft fur and really cute. If someone raises one, it can understand words and follow commands. She ruffled his hair and said she wanted one too someday, once she got outside. Holding on to that memory, 182 reaches for the potato, because he doesn't want to lose it again. Elsewhere, a few prisoners are measuring something. It moved 20 centimeters. What they're measuring is a monstrous-looking thing, now holding a leg in its third arm. Looks like someone was stupid enough to try escaping. Back in the apartment, Dante touches the wall and asks how they're supposed to break out. Rambutan crouches and says he'll show him. He watches as his legs start building up strange power, then he blasts through the ceiling in one leap, smashing straight through it. Dante is stunned and asks what that was. Lychee explains that Rambutan's talent is amazing jumping, so the plan is simple. Jump over the wall. They move up to a better lookout spot. Lychee taps the bead on her head, and her eyes start glowing. Using that power, she maps out a huge section of the prison on the spot. Dante is stunned. She can draw what she saw once like a photo. He wonders if this is all of Fogland. She says no. This map is from her trip here from the center, and it's only a small part of what's been recorded. He is left wondering how huge this nightmare really is, if that's just a fraction. Lychee goes on, saying Tofu Village isn't very big, so they must have come a long way. That means they may be close to the edge. Dante takes the pencil and points out something she didn't mark. The 4 vagrants on this side. Lychee snatches the pencil back, asking why she would draw that, but he says he just wants possible threats marked. He points to a red mark and guesses it's another threat too, but asks what it is. The two trade a look. Rambutan brushes it off, saying they'll be out soon anyway, then tells Lychee to give him directions. Once she does, he grabs both of them and takes off. In a dark corner, a few people sit there starving, with no fog and no food. Then someone walks up and asks if they have any fog, making them stare at this idiot. 182 asks again, and they snap back, asking if they look like they have any. Then he tells them to empty their pockets, and one big guy smacks him across the face, demanding to know what nonsense he's saying. They're starving, and he's seriously asking for that. One of them, a skinny guy, says maybe they should just eat him. They've heard you can get fog from human flesh. Those bone eaters do it all the time. The others hesitate. They're hungry, sure, but that's a bit much. Besides, lunch is almost here. He raises his spoon at 182 and asks where they should start. Maybe they should drain his blood first and drink that. While he's talking, the hound smacks him aside and sends him crashing into someone else. The hit is so brutal, the guy's eardrums pop out. Bit by bit, they realize who's standing there. The hound. That sends them running. Nobody wants trouble with someone like him. The hound crouches by 182 and says he finally found him, grinning as he does. Back on the day the teacher was kidnapped, while the other prisoners were fighting, the hound broke through the glass keeping Dante safe and snatched him. He ran off thinking he'd already won. Those idiots were so busy fighting they didn't even notice he'd taken the teacher. He also still wanted payback on that tower bastard for using one of his crew as a shield. Their alliance meant nothing now. He planned to make the tower pay fast, but then he noticed someone was following him. He turned and asked what crew he was with. From the look of him, the hound guessed either Bone Eater or the drill head. Then he noticed the potato in his hand. 182 asked if he wanted to grow sweet potatoes too, and the hound just stared, asking what the hell he meant. So he said they should ask the teacher. That set the hound off. He was already furious over what happened to his men. The moment he tightened his fist, he lunged at 182 and threw a punch meant to take his head off in one hit. But before it landed, he slipped away and curled 2 fingers on the hand holding the potato, then drove them straight into the hound's body. The attack targeted his organs, and it landed hard enough to drop the hound to the ground. While he couldn't move, 182 took the teacher. Now the hound grabs his head and asks about the teacher. Did he treat him well? He rips off the mask, revealing he is still stuck in limbo. Pathetic. 182 only asks again if he has any fog, so the hound takes him back to his hideout. The one who died during the teacher kidnapping was his second in command, D. And they've been holding a memorial with drinks for him. Right beside that memorial, some of his men are snapping the fingers on his hand one by one, but he doesn't react or say a word. They ask if he wants to use his toes to hold a spoon from now on. If not, he better say where that damn teacher is. 182 gives the same answer as before. Give him some fog, and he'll talk. One torturer wonders how long he can keep acting like he doesn't care, and tells the other to break another finger. Then he realizes all 5 are already broken, so they move to the toes. The hound's new second-in-command, Slick, asks if this bastard won't just get used to the pain at this rate. He says they should just give him 1 fog already, because this is wasting time. The hound refuses and warns him never to give this bastard any fog. Slick asks what's so dangerous about him. He just looks like some skinny little runt. The hound asks if that's really all he sees. Look closer at the muscle depth. That body has been trained to the limit, and his body fat is probably under 5%. One of the men training says his build is perfect, almost impressive. Slick shrugs it off and says muscles alone aren't enough. Without body fat, big hits are harder to take. The hound says he may not feel pain at all, since he's shown no response to anything they've done. Slick says the other shoulders are moving now too. Word spread that the teacher is in Tofu Village, and if another shoulder gets him first, they'll lose their chance. He admits they broke the alliance first, even before D. died. The more he thinks about it, killing the tower was a mistake too. The hound shuts that down. Hurting their brothers means blood, nothing else. He tells Slick not to talk like trash. Slick says that's not what he meant. They need to gather fog, and D. would want that too. He wouldn't want them sitting around grieving forever. Suddenly, the hound slams his fist on the table and grabs his drink, saying D.'s death won't be for nothing. For him, they'll all ascend together. He raises a toast to their fallen brother, and the others join in, but then he suddenly spits out his drink and drops down, clutching himself. His men rush over, asking if he's okay, but the hound tells them to calm down. He just choked. That's a lie. When 182 hit him, he aimed right between the ribs and stabbed in. The hound is sure he struck his liver. He throws the crushed can at his head and says he might fool everyone else, but not him. What happened back then wasn't luck, it was technique. In Fogland, people trust fog power and love picking fights, but that move was Krav Maga, wasn't it? And those shoes have steel in them, so was he a soldier. Eventually Dante and the others reach a gate, and his eyes light up when he sees it. He thinks this has to be the exit. But then Rambutan grabs him and tells him to hold on. The gate is covered by a watchtower. Dante asks if someone's really up there, but Rambutan says they can't know for sure. He says if there is, maybe he should go alone. But Lychee asks what he plans to do by himself. Knock on the door? Then a head pops out of the ground and says they'll shoot him. The second anyone gets near the gate, the bullets start flying. Lychee gets it, but then they all realize he was never supposed to be there. Dante blurts out, asking what this even is. Is that a living sweet potato? As the drill head gets mad again over being called a sweet potato, he remembers he was in his class when the incident happened. Rambutan steps between them, since he knows this guy is a shoulder. Dante can barely believe it, especially with that strangely shaped head. Then people wearing warning cones pop up and place them around the group, boxing them in. The drill head bursts up from below, introducing himself as the man closest to becoming supreme leader. He reaches for Dante, saying he needs his knowledge, but Rambut kicks him right in the face. The teacher is going with them. Before the drill head falls, his men catch him. Holding his face, he asks what Rambut thinks he's doing. Rambut tells him to stay out of it. He found this person first. The drill head can't believe it. This mangy mutt rolled in here and doesn't even know fear. He steadies himself like a dancer and starts spinning, stirring the air around him. Dante realizes he's basically doing ballet, but then the drill head starts spinning into the ground and rushes at them fast. He pops up right behind him, giving him no time to react, but before he can strike, Rambutan slams his foot down as the drill head slips away again. While drilling more holes around them, he mocks Rambutan for being too slow, and Rambutan keeps trying to catch him, while Dante freezes in fear. Then, the drill head finds an opening and drives his pointed head straight into Rambutan's back, sending him flying into a wall. Seeing Rambutan hurt, Lychee cries out, and the others react at once. The drill head reacts too, and one of them yanks off Lychee's jumpsuit, showing she really is a woman. As more hands grab at her, Dante is hit with fear and shame because this is happening because of him. Then, that shame turns to anger. He grabs a rock and hurls it into the head of one man holding Lychee. Everyone is shocked, even Lychee, but Dante doesn't stop. He starts throwing rock after rock, even hitting Lychee once. She catches his hand before he can throw another, and tells him to stop. Once Dante snaps out of it, the two of them run. The drill head says the woman is pretty, but while saying it, he watches Rambutan, checking his reaction. Then both of them charge after the two who are running, but Dante gets the worst of it. Rambutan grabs Lychee, while the drill head grabs him and dives into the ground with him, sealing his fate. Back at his hideout, the Hound asks if he's a soldier or special forces. He says he used to be that kind of bastard too, the kind who fought real battles before ending up in Fogland. He gets up and tells Slick to beat that guy half to death. He wants to see how long the guy can last without fog. Then he vanishes. That just pisses Slick off. One of them asks if he'll really do it. If not, maybe they should handle it together. Slick shuts him down and says Hound has none of what it takes to lead. He's just a reckless bastard. If Hound is supposed to become the supreme leader, then, with enough fog, anyone could have a shot. Take Inko. He's great at drawing. In Slick's eyes, that alone gives him leader potential. Even Bulk has potential, and he's not even smart. Bulk asks, what about him? Slick says his IQ has been going up lately. Every morning he wakes up and sees a little more clearly just how stupid Hound is. Trying to become someone through brute strength is old news. This world belongs to brains now. That's the real power. Bulk asks what he's planning. Slick says first he'll figure out where the teacher is, and he won't share that info with anyone. The rest can decide for themselves who they want to follow. Then he bends down toward 182. He asks if he really wants it that badly. Slick pulls out a bead of fog and says he'll give it to him. At the same time, Dante drops into the gutters with Drillhead. Drillhead looks at him with a big grin. He welcomes him. This is his underground kingdom now. Slick pops the fog bead into his mouth and says if 182 wants it, he has to work under him and later share what he knows about the teacher. He lets the bead sit on his tongue and tells him to think fast. He doesn't offer the same deal twice, but the second he swallows, he is suddenly at his throat, tearing it open and ripping the fog right out while it's still going down. The others can barely even react. By the time they understand what happened, Slick has fallen back with his throat torn out. They rush over, trying to check if he's still alive. Then they hear crack after crack as 182 forces his fingers back into place. He stares at them, his eyes glowing like a demon. Down below, Dante wonders if Rambutan and Lychee got away. They probably did, and by now they've surely left him behind. He can't blame them. There was no reason to wait, and he's done for anyway. Drillhead keeps smiling at him. Then he asks if he can really make fog. That's what the Tofu Village guys were saying. According to them, the teacher made fog in an instant, swallowed it, and then snapped Tower's neck. Dante can't believe a rumor like that spread. Drillhead asks if it's true, and he wants to deny it. But after what happened last time when people thought he was useless, he says yes, it's true. He claims he made a huge cloud of fog, swallowed it, and Tower dropped at his feet like a puppet. Drillhead tells him to quit lying. He's not as dumb as the others. He doesn't buy that stupid idea that a science teacher can make fog. Dante says if nobody knows how fog is made, then maybe writing it off as superstition doesn't make sense either. Drillhead tells him fog wasn't created by people. One day, it just started falling from the sky. That makes him think of the story about a meteorite hitting this desert. Could that be where the fog came from? The source behind all these monsters? Drillhead says it's been 50 years, and rumors say the fog is running out. When it does, Judgment Day will come. Dante finally gets it. It isn't endless. Drillhead confirms it. There's barely any left. The prisoners are struggling, and the fog only keeps cycling around. Then he tells his men to bring something over. They drag in a dead naked man. Drillhead says the man died after taking fog. What he wants to know is whether Dante can separate the fog from his blood. Scientifically, he is stunned and asks what he's even talking about. So Drillhead explains it better, the spinning device used for that 3 days thing. He asks if he means a centrifuge. Drillhead says yes, and adds that people who took a lot of fog must have a heavy amount of it in their blood. He asks if he seriously wants him to squeeze fog out of a corpse. If it's all about concentration, wouldn't it make more sense to just breathe through the man's nose, since fog is already everywhere? Drillhead grabs him by the throat and tells him to stop talking nonsense. If that worked, nobody would need fog. You can't just collect it from the air, you have to scrape it together and compress it. That suddenly makes Dante connect it to morning dew. Fog, he realizes, is basically water vapor that hit its dew point. Since it's really just H2O, it can be collected through condensation, if the conditions are right. He explains that with the right setup, they could force that change and pull out both water and the fog Drillhead wants. Later, Hound comes back and says it's time for breakfast, only to find his hideout wrecked and his men dead. His eyes instantly turn bloodshot, and he screams in rage and grief. At Chow Hall, 182 walks in with his hand badly swollen from the broken bones. He pushes through the crowd and asks for one thing: water. The server tells him to get in line, and everyone else says the same thing. Those are the rules. Without warning, 182 slams his broken hand onto the counter and asks for water again. This time he gets it, and he pulls the potato into the cup with the water. Then he sits there and waits, staring at it. Meanwhile, Dante actually manages to collect fog water with a piece of cloth. He celebrates, convinced he's a genius. Now nobody can mess with him. 182 keeps watching the potato, but it never grows, so he realizes he was tricked. That means he'll have to kill the teacher. Rambutan and Lychee start asking around. They approach an innocent-looking man and say they can escape together. There has to be a way out of this place. The man looks confused at first, then pulls a combat knife and tells them to get lost. As they leave, Lychee says it doesn't matter how dumb or harmless someone looks. In this place, everyone knows about that thing. Rambutan guesses Dante is the only one who doesn't. Then she says Drillhead's hideout is marked on the map she made. This is a fog catcher, a device used in dry places to pull water from the air. The idea is simple. When the temperature drops, water vapor in the air condenses at the dew point. At dawn, the fog's moisture gets caught in a mesh net and turns into water. If they swap that net for a breathable insect screen and curve the bottom so the dew runs into one spot, the water they collect should hold a lot of fog. Drillhead asks what fog water even is. Dante says it's water made from Fogland's pure fog. Drillhead dips his fingers into it and tastes it. The second he does, his eyes go wide. This really is fog. Everyone starts celebrating because they think they've found endless fog. They toss Dante into the air and praise him as the teacher. After that, they dress him up in a rough suit and tie. Drillhead says maybe he was born to wear a suit, though he looks pretty different now. He asks if he likes the new look. He says it's made well, almost like a real dress shirt, and Drillhead promises that from now on nobody will touch him. Clothes this fine aren't for just anyone. He welcomes him into the group and says he'll be treated with the highest respect. Dante remembers Drillhead saying he was the one closest to the Supreme Leader. He also remembers what 182 said, that to get out, he has to become the Supreme Leader. He starts thinking this guy might be his way to reach the administration. Drillhead says they're holding a grand fog festival today. Thanks to him, they don't need to save it anymore, so they're going to use every bit they've gathered for his ascension. Dante just stares, wondering what that even means. Drillhead's men sing and dance around the huge pile of fog they collected, until Drillhead says that's enough. He is shocked by how much fog they have. Are they seriously about to throw some giant trip party? Drillhead declares that he is the king underground, their king, and this is the moment all their work finally pays off. Using the fog they've saved for so long, he'll attempt ascension today. His men cheer, desperate to see him rise and finish this. Drillhead turns to Dante and tells him to watch closely. Watch the true birth of a king. Then he starts stuffing himself with fog, as everyone watches. His men keep chanting for him to ascend, and he keeps eating until only a few pieces are left. His stomach swells out of control. When nothing happens, Drillhead thinks today isn't the day either. He's taken tons of fog in his life, but still, one of his men says his talent is growing so fast, his body can't keep up, so they just need to keep trying. Then suddenly they all point and see that his head has grown massively. The cheering starts again. They think he finally ascended. Drillhead says he can feel the universe now. He claims he's reached the place the fog came from, and can see every truth in the world. As the swelling spreads, he says they all live in a pale blue hell. Then, his body bursts apart, unable to hold all that fog. The men cheer because this is a fall, and Dante hears 182's words again. Either you ascend or you fall. He can only stare in total shock while the others celebrate. After the fall, fog starts raining down, so this is what Drillhead meant by a festival. His people feeding on what came out of him. Dante can only watch them keep eating, then start bursting too, proving once and for all that Fogland is a completely different world. One prisoner who had been storing fog in his uniform yells for everyone to stop. If they keep eating, they'll die. Nobody can take this much fog at once. He grabs him and tells him to stop them, because now he has to become their leader. He breaks down and says he doesn't want this. He bolts off, screaming that he doesn't want to, while the others chase after him to drag him back. As he runs, Dante can't make sense of any of it. This has to be a dream. There's no way this is real. Something this insane just can't happen in real life. He keeps telling himself to wake up, over and over, until he spots someone familiar ahead. That person already knows, and reminds him he warned him. Again and again he repeats, "I told you so." Dante realizes it's his brother, and begs him for help. Please get him out of here. Please take him home. But his brother asks if he still doesn't understand. What he looks like doesn't matter. It's all just a stupid mask, a coward's mask. His mind snaps, and he screams in agony. Dante has selective prosopagnosia, so he can't remember his brother's face. In his head, it's just a circle. Even when his brother said the cruelest things, the face kept changing. Sometimes it looked like an angry stranger, other times, a crying woman, and sometimes even a so. He chose to picture him as a circle instead, empty and without emotion. Then he suddenly hears his brother calling for him, and when he wakes up, he's somewhere else, covered with another prisoner's uniform, and laid down gently. He turns his head and finds Rambutan and Lychee, asking if he's okay. Dante wonders what happened. Was all of that just a dream? Lychee says they brought him here. Drillhead's hideout really was on the map. They found him face down in the sewers. He asks if they really came back for him, and Lychee says yes. They promised they'd escape together. Dante realizes this is another chance he can't waste. He apologizes for holding them up, and says they need to move fast. Lychee tells him it's okay. Rambutan needs rest too, and they've already made it pretty far. She pulls back the tent flap and shows him they're right by the wall. This time, they found a spot without guard towers. A fire burns in a barrel nearby. She asks if Drillhead is really dead, and he says yes. Everyone lost their minds. It turned into total chaos. Dante still can't believe what he saw. Rambutan says it's called falling, death from a fog overdose. Then he jokes that he once ate that much too. He questions that, and Rambutan admits he's kidding before explaining that the more fog someone eats, the more their potential grows. But everyone has a limit, and that limit is different for each person. Once you hit your limit, you explode, and all the fog you've taken in over your life bursts back out. No one knows where their own limit is. Everyone thinks they might still have more in them. That's why the fog keeps spreading. They're all waiting for someone else to fall. That makes Dante remember what 182 said. Ascend or fall. There's no third option, and falling means death. He asks what ascendance even is. Is it going past the limit? Rambutan says no. It's not about going beyond it. It's a second talent that can appear after someone has already reached their max. Then, another talent follows them and worships them, and that person becomes the supreme leader. Ascension is incredibly rare. Almost everyone just falls. For a moment, Dante thinks it's all pointless. They're risking everything for something most people can never reach. Rambutan says it's more like a legend. One day, someone with endless talents will appear. They believe that person will break this world's rules, free them all, and become their god. That's who they call the supreme leader. Elsewhere, someone close to him is listening. His ears pick up everything around him, even the pigeons overhead, the brawler beside him, and some guy tearing off a piece. He hears all of it, but he also catches the tiny click of Dante pushing up his glasses. 182 opens his eyes because he's finally found him. Back in the sewers, a group in gas masks, clearly well prepared, starts collecting the fog from Drill. A woman with a bag over her head says it's glowing all over. Seems like somebody falls every day. She looks at what's left of Drill, and notes how dense the fog inside him was. He tried to ascend too, but to her that's just pathetic. Still, if he can't use that fog anymore, she'll take it. Then someone calls her a tourist, tells her to leave that trash alone, and hands her a bag of refined fog instead. She's happy with it. This stuff is top quality. The red-haired man asks if they've found that guy yet. The woman asks if he means the one-armed man. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. Who knows? The red-haired man is annoyed that a whole year has passed, and this is all they've got. She says the job barely pays anyway, especially since it's an order from Fogland's Operations Bureau. He tells her to quit talking nonsense, but she pushes back. Prices have gone up a lot this year. So can he pay more? The red-haired man agrees. If she brings them that one-armed bastard, he'll pay her as much as she wants. Morning comes at the tent, and Dante is freezing. He shouldn't have switched uniforms. The old one was way warmer and honestly much nicer. He's cold as hell. Nearby, the two lovebirds flirt under a draped uniform, trying to hide what they're doing. Then he sneezes, making it obvious he wasn't asleep at all. Rambutan asks if he's cold or something. Dante says he's fine. It's just a really awful morning. They reach the wall, and it's unbelievably tall. But he notices something off. Are those bloodstains? They look fresh, even though he didn't notice anything last night. For some reason, that makes him nervous. Dante asks if he can help, and Rambutan says yes. All he has to do is hold this bag. But first, there's something important. Is he religious? He has no idea where this is going. Before he can ask, Rambutan tells him to say a prayer for them. A prayer? Dante's confused. He doesn't even believe in God. Rambutan says that doesn't matter. When people get desperate, everyone prays, just for one chance to get out. He can tell he's serious, so he says the only prayer he knows is the Our Father. Rambutan says that's good enough, and tells him to come on. They're finally getting out of here. Then they both climb onto Rambutan, and he powers up his legs as much as he can. He tells him to start praying, and he does. Rambutan starts counting down, hammering his legs into the ground again and again to build pressure. He keeps praying out loud and in his head, hoping this works. But suddenly, a huge hand stops Rambutan before he even gets off the ground, and slams all of them back into the dirt. They crash hard. Rambutan gets the worst of it, and while Li Chi tells him to pull himself together, Dante sees 182 charging straight at them. He looks angrier than ever. He is stunned. How did he get here? He is furious. He lied to him, and now he's going to die. He keeps swinging his swollen arm while Dante runs, yelling, "Why?" Before 182 can reach him, Rambutan grabs him and takes off with both of them. Li Chi can't understand it. Why come all the way here just to attack? Why not just hit him and jump the wall? But no matter how fast Rambutan runs, he keeps up. Does this guy have some kind of running talent? 182 gets right in Dante's face and warns him to stop running, or he'll break one of his legs. He says he's not the one running, then asks why he is even clinging to him like this. Then he trips Rambutan, and they all slam down again, skidding across the filthy ground. When Dante gets back up, 182 is standing over him, making it clear he's serious. He tells him to calm down, and asks what lie he's even talking about. He told him how to grow sweet potatoes, didn't he? He says he did exactly what he said, water and sunlight, but nothing happened. He just stares, checks his watch, and realizes it's only been about a day. How could anything grow that fast? 182 says Dante is wasting his time, but he grabs his head and tells him he isn't. Things need time to grow. Isn't that obvious? It'll take at least a week before they even know if it worked. He accepts that and asks where he is going. Dante brushes himself off and reminds him he already said he was leaving. He doesn't need him anymore, right? 182 looks around and asks if it's because of those two. He asks what he means and warns him not to touch them. He already said what he needed to say. He was about to go home. He stares into his eyes and asks if he really wants to die. He said he wanted to leave, and now he's ready to die for them? Rambutan instantly yells at 182 to shut up. As far as he's concerned, the talk is over. So why doesn't he leave and stop bothering them? He calls him back to them and tells him to forget this guy. But he suddenly feels very uneasy. He asks what he means, but Rambutan grabs his arm and brushes it off as nonsense from a man whose brain is already melting. They don't have time. They need to go now. Suddenly Li Chi tells him to just grab him and run. He tells them to wait. He still hasn't gotten an answer. But Rambutan tells him to pray faster, unless he doesn't want to get out anymore. Dante does it desperately, but this is a giant jump. Rambutan fires up his power and leaps high into the air, yet he still can't shake that bad feeling. He thinks about everything they've done, how many times they saved him. He likes them. They plan to go home together. They care about him, right? Then Rambutan suddenly creates some distance between them and plants his foot on Dante's chest. He says sorry for what he's about to do. Then he hurls him away, and he hits the ground first. He nearly slams into the bloody fence. Rambutan had also handed him a bag. That bag was packed with refined fog. The men watching the Guardian say it shifted about 30 centimeters. Looks like someone tried to escape again. Then the Guardian suddenly vanishes from sight. Another escape attempt. But Dante was the one it locked onto. Left alone, he realizes they betrayed him. Earlier, when Li Chi was mapping out the whole prison, they stopped in front of the Guardian and warned Rambutan not to touch it, because that thing is dangerous. It looks like a gargoyle, almost like a statue. As long as nobody crosses the wall, it stays still, so it really is alive. He still doubts this thing can stop them from escaping, even if he's heard the stories. Lai Che explains that some say it came with the fog, others think the government made it to stop fog from leaking out. It's basically a tool that keeps all fog from leaving this place, the fog in people's bodies and the fog they breathe. They don't want any of that fog getting out, so it keeps blocking it. Rambutan asks if that means it can think. Lai Che believes it can. At least, it can sense fog and instantly tell who's trying to escape. As long as that gargoyle is here, they'll never leave this place. The more they long for freedom, for the outside and sunlight, the more despair grows inside her. It's a cycle with no end, and she can't take any more of it. Rambutan takes her hand and tells her it won't end like that. There has to be another way. He already promised she'd get out, so she needs to trust him. For her, he'll do anything, no matter how hard it is. Rambutan steps onto the wall and glances back to see the gargoyle has swallowed Dante whole, along with all the fog. His face says it all. It worked. The fog in the bag and those dumb prayers fooled it. The gargoyle thinks he is the one escaping with the fog. This is their chance to get out of here. He drops over the other side and lands hard. Beyond the prison, sunlight spills over golden sand. He can barely believe it. After all these years, it's real. They made it out. They're free. He calls for Li Chi, but when he turns back, her head is gone. Only a bloody stump is left at her neck. A crunching sound makes him look over, and another guardian is there, standing on one leg. It's chewing on something. Lyche's head. He can only stare as the gargoyle keeps grinding it down until its jaws crush it completely. Like a man who's lost the one he loves, he charges in and tries to smash the gargoyle with a kick, but before he can land it, the gargoyle inhales and spits out a blazing blast of fog, swallowing Rambutan and locking him in place. The gargoyle that ate Dante steps over the wall. 182 calls him an idiot. He warned him this place can never be escaped. He looks at his broken arm, then charges the guardian and slams that arm into its jaw, hard enough to start cracking it. Even the gargoyle seems thrown off. It fires a sharp fog blast, but 182 slips away at the last second, and snaps that it's seriously annoying. He keeps hammering its teeth and jaw, over and over, yelling for it to break already, and finally it does. Dante is still alive inside. He's crying like a kid, begging 182 to save him. He admits he was wrong, he just wants to live. He reaches out with his broken hand, and hauls him out of the gargoyle's mouth. They crash to the ground together. Dante grabs his hand right away. He thought he was dead. He thought 182 came to kill him, so why is everyone acting like this? Why does he have to go through any of it? He tells him to open his eyes and say he doesn't want to leave anymore. The moment he does, he sees the gargoyle looming over them and panics again. He asks what that thing is. It's a monster. They need to run and get away fast. Instead, 182 pins his head to the ground and tells him to say he'll never leave again. He said it over and over. There is no way out, and he wasn't lying. If Dante wants to live, he'd better say it now. He clenches his teeth, then gives in and promises the gargoyle he'll never try to leave again. 182 stares into the gargoyle's eyes, and when it senses no bad intent or lies from either of them, it simply disappears. Dante gets up and asks what that creature was. Was it just some illusion? Then he asks about Rambutan and Lyche. That couple, where are they? Did they get out? 182 tells him they're dead. What he saw wasn't an illusion. Anyone who tries to leave this land dies. It doesn't matter how strong they are. It doesn't matter how much they love each other. No one can beat the Hollow One. Back inside the prison, the girl with the bag over her head questions Bone Eater. So he's really a cannibal? Even his name is terrifying. Does he actually eat people, or is it just to scare off anyone after his fog? Bone Eater says if she wants to know that badly, they can test it. He's curious what she tastes like. She tells him to cut that out. She never agreed to it. But Bone Eater says she really is soft. He can tell from just touching her a little. She does look tasty. Still, she's got guts coming here. So what does she want? The girl pulls out a photo and says she's here to help find someone. This man. His prisoner number is him. He's him centimeters tall, has 2 moles on the right side of his face, and he's missing his right arm. Bone Eater snatches the photo with his tongue and presses it to his face, saying the guy looks delicious. Can he eat him? The woman sighs. If he likes him that much, what can she even say? Bone Eater laughs and says she really does know him well. So who is she? She thinks it over, then says she's the same as them, isn't she? Bone Eater says she's good with words. Honestly, he's never met anyone like her. The girl says that's not strange at all. He's just a village kid from around here. She lives in a place where only the strong survive. She's a senior of District A. After the gargoyle returns to its spot, the men measuring its movement are stunned because when they check the gargoyles, they find cracks in them. How is that possible? Why are they broken? The bald guy wonders if the golem got hurt, but can that even happen? Then a man named Baba Yanga speaks. Baba Yanga says this is an omen and starts laughing. Everyone is shocked. He hasn't spoken in 5 years. Baba Yanga keeps going, saying this is a great sign. A crack has formed in the chains keeping them here. Right away, they know it's a prophecy, the kind that may come only once every 5 years, so they'd better write it down, or at least remember it while they can. He says the bird has taken flight. The day of their freedom is getting close. Dante asks 182 about those things. He called it a hollow one, right? Did it kill Lychee and Rambutan too? He says it wasn't just one, there was another. There isn't only a single one of these. They haunt anyone who tries to leave Fogland and kill them. He is stunned. He still can't accept it, and Lychee and Rambutan never told him any of this. He says they just lied to him, but that only makes it harder to believe. Going outside means dying to a monster? How does something like that exist without the outside world knowing? 182 tells him to quit messing around. He saw it himself. Cross the wall, and you die. There is no way out. He already told him that before. Dante drops to his knees and says it's a lie. It can't be possible. There's no way. He answers by punching him. He already told him to shut up. Later, when they get food, he doesn't eat. All he can think about is the Hollow One. It's some kind of monster that stops escape. Maybe a prison defense system. Maybe hallucinations. Maybe some complicated machine. Whatever it is, it's strong enough to keep even these prisoners trapped. He thinks back on what happened. In the end, he was just bait. He grabs his forearm tight. That was way too close. Still, he was the idiot. They were a couple standing between life and death. They had no time to worry about a stranger from the very start. Everything went wrong because he was so fixed on escaping. He stopped thinking straight. So why did this guy save him? What is he hiding? This time it wasn't about sweet potatoes, or clothes, or even his knowledge of fog. Even before this, he looked after him. Is this guy really just a good person? Even after saying harsh things, treating him like trash, like he wasn't human, why is he still kind? Then Dante notices him balancing a fork with his broken arm. He asks what's wrong with it, and 182 quickly hides it behind him, saying he's fine. He doesn't believe that at all. He moves closer and says it's swollen, even worse than before. They need a hospital. He can't leave it like that. He tells him to leave it alone. It's fine, just fractured. Dante says even if that's true, swelling that bad isn't normal. Does it hurt? 182 says no, but when he grabs his arm, he flinches, proving he's only been toughing it out. Seeing that, he grabs some scrap cloth and wraps his arm in a quick bandage. He gets irritated right away and tells him to take it off, but he says it's just for now. If the arm keeps moving, it'll hurt even more. He still insists on removing it because he needs to eat. Dante fires back that he couldn't eat properly either way. Does he seriously not get how bad this is? If he doesn't get treatment, his arm could be ruined for good. Does he really think he can survive here with only his legs? Right now, they're just two weak idiots barely hanging on. If some thug jumps them outside, they'll probably be dead before they know it. That finally makes 182 say they should head to the hospital. Dante is shocked there's actually a hospital here. He says there is, at least it looks like one, with a doctor and staff. He quickly asks where the doctor is, since that matters most. But he has no idea, making him wonder if the doctor is even real. 182 says he once fought a doctor before. He thinks it was somewhere in Zone O. He realizes this place is way bigger than he thought. Even that map looked too large for any normal prison. Then his thoughts jump back to the map. He still has the bag they carried earlier, so he starts digging through it. And sure enough, the map is still there, tucked in with the leftover fog. To Dante, it's like finding their one shot at survival. As he spreads it out, he remembers his mother always saying everything happens for a reason. He doesn't believe in God like she did, but he does believe this much. If you can get back up after falling, then every failure just becomes part of the story that led you forward. A moment later, he spots the hospital marked on the map. And that's not all. This thing is packed with details. It shows key parts of the whole prison layout. The place looks like a giant pizza, and only about 4 zones are drawn clearly. Dante starts wondering if the center controls everything, but the map seems cut off in the middle. Then suddenly, when he feels the edge, he realizes it isn't cut at all. It's folded. There's something hidden underneath. He pulls it open and sees the command center marked as Fog HQ, so there really is a central point in the middle, a real main headquarters. Dante shouts to 182 that he's got a plan. They're going to the center, but he is off doing his own thing, focused on the fog he took. Elsewhere, a well-known information broker counts his fog like a dealer, pleased with how much he's been making lately. If luck's on his side, he'll find that one-armed bastard soon. The guy stirred things up enough that everyone's talking about him. This broker is Kashim. A note comes in saying there are visitors, and Kashim tells them to send them in, but the guard doesn't get to respond, before Bone Eater leans into the doorway and walks inside. He looms over Kashim like an executioner. Kashim is rattled. This guy is no joke. That huge body barely contains his hunger. Among the thugs in Zone O, Bone Eater is the most dangerous. He almost never shows himself, so Kashim only knows him by reputation. Still, he asks what he wants. Bone Eater pulls out a picture of 182. Kashim recognizes him at once. Isn't this the same man Bloodhound was after? Seeing Kashim's face, Bone Eater can tell he's seen him before. Kashim smiles, thinking this could be one job with 2 payouts. He says he's already looked into the man, and information like that has competition. So how much is Bone Eater willing to pay? Bone Eater says his life should be enough payment. Or does Kashim think his own life means nothing? Kashim laughs, though his voice shakes a little. He says that's a boring threat. Doesn't Bone Eater know hurting an informant breaks underworld rules? But Bone Eater's attention drifts to Kashim's ear. He says he just wants a little taste. After chewing it off, he decides it tastes great. Warm, almost like the sea. Maybe Kashim came from there. As the guards collapse, Kashim panics over what to do. Bone Eater orders him to find that bastard now, or he'll keep craving that taste until nothing is left of Kashim but bones for soup. That night, Dante heads out with 182, who is also wearing a very strange mask. He asks what this is about, and he says there's a saying, if you want to hide a tree, put it in a forest. In other words, he's trying to blend in as just another prisoner, so he won't stand out like before. His rough breathing annoys him, and since he is moving slowly too, he kicks him in the back. He complains he can't keep going because he's hungry. Dante reminds him they were supposed to get his arm treated, but he is more interested in the 2 cafeterias they already passed. He can't believe a grown man is whining this much over food. He already warned him the cafeteria is dangerous. Too many eyes. Back then, if he was hungry, he ate. If he was tired, he slept. If someone challenged him, he fought back. But those days are over. Since his arm was wrecked, he can't fight like before. yet he still can't stop moving. He reminds himself of what he realized earlier. There's a cliff behind them now. Going back only means death, so they have no choice but to keep moving forward, no matter how ridiculous he looks. Back at the broker's kiosk, Kasim starts thinking hard. The prison registry is a masterpiece built by information brokers from every area. Since Fogland reuses numbers from dead prisoners, the registry has kept updating non-stop. But the last record tied to 182 is just a death, and for 22 years that number was never given to anyone else. So who the hell is this bastard? One guard suggests he may have stolen a dead prisoner's tag. That happens sometimes, especially with rare numbers. Kasim doesn't buy it. Like Hound said, that man is on another level, and the brand new uniform proves the prisoner number is real. The guard is confused. If he never died, how does he still look so young? Kasim says that can't be right, and a guard guesses maybe he got some youth talent, or the registry just hasn't updated. Kasim rejects that too. 22 years is far too long for every broker to miss it. That means someone hid it on purpose. The only group that could do that is the Administration Bureau, and no one else. Eventually, Dante and 182 reach Dumpling Village, where the hospital is supposed to be. He asks if he remembers anything about this place. Not really, only that it isn't Tofu Village. He is glad to hear that. At least they're finally out of that nightmare, even if the walk was long. 182 warns him not to relax. This village has a lot of strong people, and the farther in you go, the more of them there are. As they move through it, the mood feels oddly calm for a prison. It almost feels like a normal night market. Dante notices it too. There are shops everywhere, even electricity. The place clearly runs on some kind of economy, and it's packed with far more people than Tofu Village. From the map, Dante knows all these villages were controlled by the Shoulders. But strangely, the Shoulder ruling Dumpling Village isn't listed. That doesn't make things safer. The less they know about a place, the more careful they need to be. He tries to tell 182 they should slip into an alley and figure out their next move, but he has already walked up to a food stall. The owner says one dumpling costs 10 milligrams of fog. He says he doesn't have any. A second later, chaos breaks out. The owner throws 182 and calls him a thief. People gather fast, shocked that someone tried robbing the village's famous original shop. Dante can't believe it. They're being called thieves when they haven't stolen anything. Then he tells him to hand over the dumplings, and he loses all hope. The owner explodes, asking if he thinks Dumpling Village's dumplings, filled with its soul and history, should be free. Are dumplings a joke to him? Does he want to die? Dante instantly clamps a hand over 182's mouth. Then he quickly apologizes for him. The owner raises a meat cleaver and demands to know who they are. He says they aren't thieves, he is his younger brother, and he's very sick, mentally ill too. The owner isn't fooled. To him, he is just calling a thief something else. Their masks only make them look more suspicious. And in this village, evil people aren't allowed in. They get executed on the spot. Dante looks around at the crowd, but before things get worse, someone arrives, and everyone turns to look. It's the elder, Mongol Dumpling. He walks up to him, repeats that his brother is sick, and notices the injured arm too. The owner says the injured one tried to steal Mongol dumplings, but Mongol replies that he barely has a hand to steal with. Was he going to grab one with his toes? Then he tells the two to follow him. He'll give them something to eat. Once they sit and start eating, Mongol asks why they're wearing such fierce masks. If anything, masks like those only make them look guiltier. Still, he says sorry for that shop owner. They're just trying to keep this village safe. Around them, people are simply eating and selling dumplings. He apologizes for the trouble. Mongol asks how the dumplings are, and he admits they taste amazing. He can't believe food this good exists in a place like this. Then, Mongol says the filling came from leftover cafeteria slop, and he instantly spits out what was in his mouth. He quickly stuffs the rest into 182's mouth instead, since he'd been waiting the whole time. He points out they really hate wasting food here. Mongol agrees. These dumplings are the pride of the village, and people come from all over just to eat them. Of course, not everyone comes just for dumplings. Some are looking for the hospital. He figures that's why they came too. If so, he says they need to stop right there. Showing his badly scarred forearm, he says the place they're after isn't a hospital anymore. Now it's the Demon King's castle, a place even worse than this prison. While 182 keeps eating, Dante asks what that means. Mongol says a very dangerous being lives there. That place is tied to a lot of Uruk's history, and even that wall was caused by it. He warns them not to go near it. He asks if he means some gang leaders are hiding there. Mongol says it's far beyond that. This is something else entirely, and getting close is nearly impossible. Confused, Dante asks about the doctor there. Isn't there anyone who can treat people? They have to see a doctor, no matter what. Mongol turns back and says there is no doctor there. As far as he knows, only the Demon King remains. He hopes that once morning comes they leave too. For tonight, he'll give them a place to stay, but he strongly warns them to drop the hospital idea. Mongol really does give them a room, but he can't stop thinking about what he said. What happened there? Did this Demon King kill all the doctors? He asks 182 when he last saw the doctor. He says it was a long time ago. Dante already knew that. He wants to know how long, and whether he remembers anything else, like what the hospital was like back then, and whether it looked anything like it does now. He starts to remember. He had lost an arm, was starving, and felt dizzy, so he went to the hospital for treatment. A doctor came up to him as soon as he entered. He only told the doctor to fix his arm and stared at him. Dante is thrown off. That's all he said? Then what did the doctor do? 182 keeps remembering. The doctor said the arm couldn't be reattached right away. That was basically it, so he hit him. The doctor hit back, and then he got hit again. Dante starts to worry and asks if he ended up killing the doctor. 182 says he didn't. That relieves him. Fine, then the doctor should still be there, right? But he says that's not it. He was the one who got taught a lesson. Now he wants to go back and hit the doctor again. He snaps at him to stop. Who is he planning to fight with that arm? They don't even know if the doctor is alive. And the village elder already said the hospital doesn't have a doctor anymore. He brushes that off. He heard it himself, the doctor's voice from the hospital. So the doctor is still there somehow. With that, they head to the hospital the next morning, and it's just like they were warned. Blood is everywhere. Bodies, old and fresh, line the walls. The elder was right. This place doesn't feel like a hospital anymore. Dante asks if he is really sure the doctor is here. He tells him he heard his voice, so he should shut up and follow. By now, he has figured out something else about him. His hearing is insanely sharp. Last night, he asked what exactly he heard and from where. He answered by copying a whistling sound. Dante still wasn't sure that counted as the doctor's voice. He asked if 182 had some weird talent, like super sharp hearing. He denied it, but he didn't buy that at all. Either he was lying, or he really could hear things no one else could. Maybe that's why he's always talking about noises. He tells him to just admit it. An ability like that would help a lot. He kept refusing, so he covered his mouth and whispered something so quietly it should have been impossible to hear. 182 heard it anyway, and kicked him at once. Dante had barely moved his lips and made almost no sound, yet he still caught it. So yes, his hearing is definitely abnormal, which means this place could be the Demon King's castle they heard about, or the hospital he remembers. Either way, they have to see for themselves. Before going in, he pulls 182 back. They both stare at the main entrance. Dante asks if he hears anyone inside. He says no. Then he asks if he remembers the plan, and tells him to repeat it. He does. Knock, hide fast, and if the one who comes out isn't a doctor, grab the weapon and run. He is glad he remembered. Fine, go do it. Ring and run. 182 doesn't just hear well, he can run as fast as Rambutan. Maybe faster. So if he goes in front, they can test the place safely. He taps the entrance a few times with his foot, and sprints back, only to trip beside Dante. They wait, but no one comes out. He asks if nobody's in there. Since 182 still hears nothing, he says they should try again, harder this time. He goes back and does it again, but it's still completely silent. Dante wonders what is going on in there, and asks if he can still hear the doctor's voice. 182 says to try once more, and runs for the door. The moment he taps the glass again, someone bursts out and smashes the entrance apart. Dante shouts for him to get away now, but before he can, someone hurls him aside, and he rolls across the walkway. He stares at the entrance in shock, wondering if this is the Demon King. Then someone steps out, casually spinning surgical scissors around a finger. He calls them rude, and asks why they kept bothering him. Don't they know how to knock softly? 182 says he's a doctor, which only makes the man blink. Did they come here to see one? He says yes, and tells him to fix his arm. Annoyed, the doctor gives him 3 seconds to get out of his face. At the same time, Dante tells 182 to act polite, and look as miserable as possible. The doctor hooks a finger into his mask and asks if he brought any fog to pay, or does trash like him think he deserves treatment like a human? He repeats that he's a doctor, but the man snaps back. So what? Being a doctor doesn't mean working for free. Then 182 suddenly tries to kick him in the stomach. Dante is shocked, though he also saw it coming. Before it lands, the doctor catches the kick and says this is exactly how people like him act. Rude idiots. He fires a kick back, smashing a pillar behind him. The impact sends Dante flying. The doctor admits he's impressed 182 dodged it. Pretty good for a one-armed guy. Then he spins on that injured arm and kicks the doctor away, but the doctor catches his leg and remarks that he's tougher than he looks. Using that leg, he slams 182 hard into the ground. Dante was already knocked out by the earlier blast. The doctor wonders what he will do now that one of his legs is useless too. Now he's a one-legged bastard who probably can't even survive outside. But then 182 wraps his leg around the doctor's head and grabs his arm with his teeth. It isn't just panic, either. The doctor realizes he was targeting the thumb flexor muscle. Now this has gotten interesting. Before 182 can follow up, the doctor strikes his neck, then his leg, then his waist, then his side, all with those precise scissors. 182 staggers back and drops to one knee, but the doctor says it's over. He cut the pectoral muscle, the internal oblique, the lumbar muscle, and the peroneus longus. 182 collapses almost at once. With those tendons severed, the doctor finally understands what he's dealing with. He twirls the scissors again and stands over him, saying he should have left during those 3 seconds. Then Dante crashes into him and yells for the doctor to stop. They didn't come to fight, they came to see a doctor. The doctor asks who he is, sneaking around like a bug. He says he wasn't hiding because he's scared. He just wasn't sure this was really a hospital. So the doctor asks why they want a hospital at all. Trash like them should just crawl off and die. They're going to die sooner or later anyway. Dante uses that hatred and says he isn't a prisoner. He tells him to look at his eyes. He's never used fog. He's completely normal. The doctor is thrown off. How did a normal person like him end up here? He says there was a prison education program here, and he was one of the teachers in it. Or at least he was. Then a riot broke out, turned brutal, and left him trapped. He begs him. They really need his help. The doctor laughs. A private prison education program? Now that is very interesting. Dante stands and insists he's telling the truth. Just look at his tie. It's Stefano Risi. The doctor knows that brand, right? Top custom stuff from Italy. Same with the pants. What prisoner could afford clothes like these? The doctor asks what kind of help he wants. He says first, he needs him to call the management office, and if possible, treat the guy behind him too. The doctor asks if that man is a teacher too. Dante decides to lie, saying he's a PE teacher. He looks like one, doesn't he? Back in Kasem's office, all the cannibals from the Bone Eaters group have gathered. Then the Bone Eater walks in and says the promised day has finally arrived. Now he'll share everything he found. Kasem points out they never set an exact date, but the Bone Eater says they did. He told him he'd return when he started craving that taste again. With a guy like this, you know he's serious. So Kasem quickly gives it up. Tofu Village. There's a witness there tied to the person he wants information on. At once, the Bone Eater lights up. Then he bolts out the door. One guard asks if that was really smart. This is high-level intel the Hound has been after, and he's just handing it to him. Kasem asks what else he was supposed to do. The guard says they should have thought harder. If he goes after him, will the other big shots really stay quiet? Especially when he's the only fog supplier in Zone O. Kasem asks if he heard his stomach growl. Sometimes you just move on instinct. They still don't really know what kind of person he is. There are unwritten rules between the big shots, and even limits the management office respects. The Bone Eater doesn't care about any of that. The only things pushing him are hunger and the thrill of eating human flesh. The doctor brings Dante and 182 inside. He keeps glancing around, taking in how old the place is. It feels more like a rotting abandoned house than a hospital. What kind of monster did they keep here? After a while, the doctor comes in and says 182's injuries aren't too bad. They just need treatment so he can recover like before. Dante rises and says he forgot to introduce himself, reaching out for a handshake, but the doctor tells him not to touch him. His hands could get infected. Then he gives his name, Raylen. At least, that's what he calls himself. He also asks for the name of the patient on the table. He doesn't want to say his prisoner number, especially after calling him a PE teacher. So he makes up a name, David. Yeah, his name is David. Raylen wonders if he's really a PE teacher, since he talks rough and seems a little wild. Dante dodges that and says he's heard strange rumors about this place, like a demon king being hidden here, and this hospital is way too run down. Did something happen here? Raylen sighs and says yes, something did happen, and because of that, he can't contact the administration office. His situation isn't any different from theirs. He's being kept here against his will too. Dante tells him to wait. What does he mean he's trapped here? Doesn't he work for the administrative office? Raylen says he does, but he has the wrong idea. He was sent here on a mission about 4 years ago, mainly to sharpen his surgery skills. Back then, many people came with him. Interns like him and doctors transferred from other departments. Not long after, they all died because one lunatic suddenly snapped. Raylen was the only survivor. Dante asks what happened next. Didn't anyone try to rescue him? Raylen turns to him and asks, if they had, does he really think he'd still be stuck in this hell 4 years later? He says he heard the thick fog made rescue nearly impossible, but Raylen repeats it, because of the fog. Looks like Dante still doesn't get it. The real people from the administrative office were those ones, the ones in masks, walking around here like nothing happened. They didn't fail to find him. They chose to leave them here to die and be used like livestock. He waits outside the operating room and realizes Raylen may be right. From the beginning, the fog spread over everything way too fast. No one there had proper protection. Everyone back then breathed it in, and he never saw any N95 masks. The soldiers only wore normal masks. So who were they really? Were they even from the administrative office? And those old guards who died in the classroom, were they fooled too? Why was he brought here in the first place? They said a teacher had gone missing. What they needed was someone truly capable, someone who could adjust and rebuild in any situation. He remembers when he first got the offer. It came from William Cox, an administrative officer from the International Alliance Creator Branch. As head of the special team, William came to see him in person and apologized for showing up without warning. Dante said it was fine, but wondered why someone from the International Alliance wanted to meet him. William looked around and said the place was simpler than expected. Wasn't he from the famous Dr. Kang family? That family had been wealthy for a long time. He says that's true, but he didn't build that fortune and has lived on his own for years. Then he asks if this visit has something to do with his parents. William says no. The person they want is Dante himself, the man who turned down his father's research path and chose to teach young children instead. He scratches the back of his head and admits that's true. Then, William suddenly applauds him. He calls it admirable, giving up all those chances and advantages to follow his own beliefs. Even with such outstanding genes, he still chose that road. William sets a file on the table and says he is exactly the kind of person they've been searching for. Would he be interested in the job they're offering? Dante looks at the file. International Law Enforcement Agency Creator Detention Office, Prisoner Education Project. William explains further. YPACS, the International Alliance of the Penitentiary Systems, wants him to lead a long-term education project there. He asks if penitentiary means prison, and William says yes. A prison is a place where hope and dreams barely survive. That's why they need someone talented and open-minded like him. Dante wonders why William keeps praising him. He doesn't see this job as below someone with his background. William says that's exactly why he stands out. It's just like the him he knows. A remarkable person who can spark hope anywhere, whether it's paradise or a living hell. Rillin tells 182, there's no anesthesia. He already saw the state of this hospital, so can he handle it without any? He says it's fine, and Rillin gets to work. Since there's no anesthesia, he'll fix every injured spot in one go. Then he drives the scalpel into him. His eyes sharpen as he makes the first cut. Right away, his hand starts moving like a painter's, cutting through flesh with perfect control, reconnecting torn tendons almost at the same time, all in just a few seconds. In under a minute, he finishes wrapping 182 up. The neck muscles, the abdominal muscles, the thigh abductor muscles, and the calf muscles, all of them have been reattached. He didn't pass out or even scream. Honestly, that was pretty impressive of him. Then Rellin says his arm was broken too, right? It looks badly swollen. The X-ray machine stopped working a long time ago, so he'll just open it and check directly. He tells him to open his mouth wide and bite down hard. If the pain gets unbearable, he'll just have to take it. Rellin starts cutting into his arm, and once it's opened, he sees the bones really are shattered. On top of that, it looks like the injury took another heavy hit afterward. What the hell happened to him? He decides to check the soft tissue first, so he starts pulling out the bone fragments. But the moment he removes one, it snaps back into place. Looking closer, he sees the fragments attaching themselves back to the bone. No, that's not even it. They're returning to their original spots on their own, like time is reversing. He rips off his medical mask in fury and storms out of the operating room, carrying 182 with him. He glares at Dante and asks if he's trying to get himself killed. He's got some nerve, tricking him into treating one of those prisoners. As he watches him leave, he asks what he's doing, and Rellin says he's taking this thing out to throw it away. Dante wonders why. Did he somehow reveal he was a prisoner? No, he can't even talk right now. Or did Rellin recognize that he had been here before? Rellin tells him to stop lying. A PE teacher? No way. He knows what fog does to people, and a tumor that large doesn't grow in just a few years. Then he throws him onto the ground. He snaps, asking what kind of insane stunt he's pulling. No matter what, a doctor shouldn't treat a patient like that. He's gone too far. Rellin grabs him by the collar and demands to know who he really is. Is he a teacher, or was that a lie too? He says he really was a teacher, so Rellin asks why he brought a prisoner with him. Dante says that man has gotten him out of trouble before, so he's someone he can trust. Rellin gives a bitter laugh and says he still doesn't understand how scary this place really is. Has he lost his mind? He says he already knows exactly what kind of place this is. That is why he has to be careful about who he trusts. He can't survive this alone, and he needs help. Is Rellin really planning to hide here forever? Rellin lets go of him. Then he says that actually was his plan. He trusts neither the guards nor the prisoners. He tells Dante to choose a path too. Better to stay here than wander outside and die in a ditch. If he wants, he can hide here as well. Rellin says he'll keep him safe, but not that prisoner. Never. He will never let him in. He looks at 182, and a harsh memory from childhood hits him. He once tried to pick up a dying bird, but his brother kicked it away and told him to think straight. Why keep crying over something already dead? So Dante lifts him and leaves, but the weight quickly starts wearing him down. He can't believe this is happening. Why couldn't 182 just stay still and get treated? He says he did nothing. He snaps that he should stop spitting on him. A doctor wouldn't react like that for no reason. They keep arguing, until Dante slips and crashes down with him. They slide all the way to the bottom, and he is completely fed up. First he says, they need to ditch that stupid lamp. It's too heavy, and he can't keep moving with it. 182 refuses. That sets him off. He already said he can't carry him like this anymore. Can he seriously not see the problem? Why won't he work with him at all? Dante reminds him they escaped the hospital because of him, even after Rellin said he would protect him there. 182 stays silent. He pinches the bridge of his nose, thinking he should have just stayed there instead of taking this dumb road again. He starts slapping himself over and over, when Mongol suddenly shows up and asks what they're doing here. Dante is shocked to see him. After what Mongol said before, he never thought he'd come without being asked. They carry him back to their old shelter, and Mongol is clearly irritated. Didn't he already warn them not to go there? He says they couldn't just do nothing while 182 was hurt. Mongol doesn't care. He tells him to look at him now. He was fine before, and now he's nearly dead. What kind of mess did they get into? Then suddenly, he notices his arm is bandaged, and the swelling is lower, so he asks if Rellin ended up treating them after all. Dante says it probably wasn't even proper treatment, but when he checks 182's arm, the swelling really has gone down a lot, and the bandage is wrapped neatly. That doctor really did something. How did he heal it so fast? Mongol asks how they got Rellin to work on him. He normally refuses to treat prisoners. Dante asks if Mongol knows him well, and why he hid the fact that a doctor was there. What was all that about a demon king's castle? Rellin didn't seem that cruel. He even opened a path for them to leave. Mongol admits they lied. They just didn't want prisoners swarming around the doctor. They weren't trying to trick them. It all goes back a long time, to when that place still worked like a real hospital. By now he should know what Fogland is. A dump for people no one wants anymore. So having a medical center there was a crazy luxury. Back then, the people there were incredibly kind. Even though Fogland was full of violent people, they treated them with real care and no bias. They didn't look down on them. They treated them like people. Little by little, that kindness made the villagers feel human again. One day, Mongol brought over some dumplings, and the head doctor called Rillin over to eat too. Rillin put down the book he'd been sleeping with, and complained that the man had surgery just weeks ago, yet he was already making dumplings. His old wound probably wasn't even healed, but he never listened. Mongol said he was just thankful for what they'd done for him, so he wanted to give something back, even if it was small. Rillin told him hospitals already had food, and Mongol admitted theirs was probably better anyway. Then, Rillin stepped closer and touched his hand, asking how it had been lately, and if he could move it freely now. Mongol smiled and said yes, it was thanks to Rillin's surgery. He even said the dumplings came out nicely because of it. Back then, they really started to feel human. To return that kindness, some brought food, others brought scrap they thought might help, and some idiots even brought fog to the doctors. That let fog build up inside the hospital, and that was where the disaster began. People got greedy over the fog stockpile, and a bloody massacre broke out. By the time the villagers found out the next morning, the place was full of bodies. They searched for anyone still alive, checking the whole hospital, until Mongol finally found Rillin. His legs were ripped apart, his breathing was weak, and he was covered in blood, his own and other people's. Mongol instantly called for bandages. He wanted to save him no matter what. But then, on those broken legs, Rillin forced himself up and screamed at them to get out of his sight. He called them devils and swore he'd kill every last one. By then, his mind had completely broken. Even while dying, he kept swinging his knife at them. In the end, they could do nothing, and that still hasn't changed. Dante asks how he lived through that. Mongol says Rillin touched fog. He still doesn't know what terrible power he got from it, but somehow he survived by himself. He fought that hard to stay alive, only to end up with pain worse than death. Now he lives alone in that hospital, probably surviving on whatever rations he has left. Mongol doesn't know how long that can last. At one point, Rillin had wondered how they could even eat those dumplings. Food made from leftovers sounded disgusting to him. One of the doctors told him not to call it trash. The people had carefully picked clean leftovers to cook with, and Mongol meant well. So Rillin should watch what he says, in case the patients feel hurt. Rillin went quiet, then said that made sense. They were only former prisoners. Then he noticed all the blue stuff they kept bringing in. There was so much it was piling up. Someone wondered if that was the thing that gave people strange powers. The fog. Another said they still didn't know, since research wasn't finished. Then someone asked why they weren't getting rid of it. Prisoners already seemed addicted, but a nurse quickly hushed him. She pointed out a man in a gas mask and suit, who had been there the whole time, probably guarding it. According to her, they didn't need to know much. It was a matter for the World Confederation. The man replied that everything must have a reason. The older doctor agreed, and told them to eat the dumplings before they got cold. Then an emergency code red suddenly came in. A patient was in critical condition, and another nurse rushed in saying the same thing. They quickly wheeled the injured person into the operating room, with his pulse already under 40. They gave medicine and did what they could, but Rellin doubted he'd live. The equipment there looked nowhere near enough. The other doctor snaps that he shouldn't say that in front of a wounded man who's still breathing. They have to keep him alive till the very end. Then he tells Rellin to come in too. He'll be the assistant surgeon. After changing, they enter the operating room and see just how badly she is bleeding. They were even running low on blood bags. The older doctor curses. The wound is a total mess, and in that condition he can't even find the source of the bleeding. That's when Rellin steps in and finds it. It was the facial artery, leaving the director and everyone else stunned. Because of that, they managed to stabilize the patient. Later, the older doctor says it's already getting dark. Since arriving there, Relin had never seen such a huge surgery. It was rough, wasn't it? The older doctor also asks how he spotted that artery so fast. The tissue was torn apart, and blood was spraying everywhere. Relin says he caught a flash just before the blood covered everything. The older doctor is impressed. His focus is incredible. He could trust him with it all. Relin also says sorry for snatching the forceps like that, but the older doctor waves it off. In an emergency, that stuff doesn't matter. Besides, Relin was the assistant surgeon today. He was the one who pulled that patient back from death, so he shouldn't give up so easily anymore. One day, he says, Relin will become a great doctor. But that night, the patient had no plan to stay calm. And of course, the moment he saw the older doctor, he took him down and came after Relin next. He said it was him, really him. Relin was the one who caught him and locked him back in this cursed prison. That prison called the body. So now, he said, Relin should try it too, the punishment of being alive. Remembering all that, Relin slams a can into the wall and stares at the bag of dumplings beside him. Back at the dumpling village, 182 only says one thing: eat. He wants dumplings. Dante wonders where they're supposed to get food. Seriously, can he not read the room? That old man grimly told them how Relin survived alone in that hospital for 2 whole years. He said they should try talking to him before things get worse. After all, he still has ties to this village. Mongol said that was not the case. If anything, he felt even more distant from them than from everyone else. Even so, he still agreed to treat them. Maybe because they're outsiders and can't really do anything here. His assistant wondered if that meant Relin was already starting to soften, since he chose to help outsiders. Mongol said that was enough. Didn't they understand yet? Relin was punishing them, so they should just let him do as he pleased. Dante still couldn't accept that. No matter what, they had to find a way out. What was the point of staying here and giving up? Relin could probably help a lot. He also knows a lot, so if he's going to waste a life that valuable, then he should at least spend it helping him. 182 called himself nothing but a burden, and he snapped back that the same doctor he called useless had saved him, so he should show some thanks. Dante said people like him were exactly why Relin got mad. He should be the one lowering his head and saying sorry. So was he going to apologize or not? He awkwardly muttered that he hit him first. Then, more clearly, he said he was a patient too. It was the first time he had seen anything from him besides anger. What looked like anger wasn't really anger. He was just hurting. Maybe that mask had been hiding a lot of feelings all along, and anger was just how they came out, like a rebellious teenager acting tough. A lot of people show every feeling they have through anger or irritation. He may look stubborn and hard to understand, but maybe he just doesn't know how to say what he feels. Sometimes people don't even know what the feeling is called. Real emotions can stay buried inside anger. Things like loss, shame, and even worry, maybe guilt too. A lot of problems between people can be solved just by figuring out the real feeling underneath. The next morning in the dumpling village, a man chatted with his friends, saying that since morning was here, they should grab a dumpling and a drink. Before he could say where he got the money, someone slammed into him. He turned to yell at them, then saw it was the cannibals. He instantly wet himself. Mongol finished his morning dumplings too. He planned to check on the boy with glasses and bring him breakfast if he was awake. The stone-faced assistant asked if he was really giving him free food again. Mongol said the boy had to be starving after last night. And as for yesterday, he admitted he hadn't acted like an adult. The kid was just hungry, and homeless too. He told the assistant to take the food to them, but then another assistant rushed in, saying something serious had happened. The bone eater was in their village. Mongol didn't recognize the name at first, so the stone-faced assistant explained. It was the man who eats people, the one who devours human flesh. That bastard was the worst kind there was. He said he'd gather the guards and handle him, but Mongol told Legos to stop. Making trouble would only make things worse. It would be better to welcome him politely. They couldn't risk the villagers getting hurt. Dante woke up that morning too, wondering how long it had been since he'd slept that deeply. He was starving, and he smelled terrible. What he wanted most was a bath. He noticed 182 was still asleep, and he'd never seen him resting so peacefully. Usually, he was tense like a wild animal, so why did he seem so unguarded today? Dante held 2 fingers near his mouth and checked that he was breathing. Only then did it really hit him. 182 was human too. He put on his shoes and stepped outside, looking for Mongol, and hoping to ask where the bathroom was. Then he noticed what was happening. The bone eater was sitting across from Mongol. Dante recognized him from class and immediately knew he was bad news. Had he followed him here to hunt him down? Then Bone Eater held up a picture of 182 and asked Mongol if he'd seen that face before. Dante had no idea how Mongol would answer, so he backed away at once, thinking he had to get him out fast. Mongol said he'd never seen him before, which shocked him. Bone Eater said he was starving, so what were they going to do about it? He wanted food, His assistant warned that the man from earlier was hiding in this village. If Mongol didn't tell the truth soon, he might end up as this monster's meal. Bone Eater slammed the table and stood, saying maybe he should grab a quick bite first. But who should he eat? Before anyone else could move, Mongol stopped him and asked if he wanted dumplings. Bone Eater scoffed that he didn't want garbage. Mongol promised these were different. If Bone Eater gave him the chance, he'd make the finest dumplings possible. And if they tasted so bad that not even a dog would touch them, then Mongol would offer himself up as the next snack. Everyone was stunned by that offer. Still, Mongol told them not to look so scared. Didn't they trust his cooking? These were the village's famous dumplings. Dante rushed back to the room, thinking everyone had lost their minds. Those dumplings were made from scraps and trash. Even if Bone Eater didn't die from them, they still weren't anything special. So why risk all this just to protect a stranger? He ran to 182, shaking him and trying to wake him up. The second he opened his eyes, he lunged at Dante and grabbed his neck, then realized who it was. He could tell he was badly shaken. Was something wrong? Did he have a nightmare? He jolted awake for no reason. That wasn't normal at all. He asked if he could stand. Why not try getting up? 182 looked at him, clearly irritated, and asked if he was happy now. Dante said if he could move, then he needed to escape the village on his own. The heavy hitters had already arrived. They were hunting him. They had to leave right away. 182 asked if he wanted him to go alone, and he said there was somewhere he had to go first. He told him to wait by the village entrance and climb out through the window, so no one would catch him. If the bags were too heavy, he could leave them. Dante would bring them later. He immediately asked why he was abandoning him again. He froze. Then he said that wasn't it. He was trying to save his life. Back then, he acted that way because he didn't know. He didn't know 182 wasn't actually a bad person, and he never imagined he'd end up owing him his life more than once. Hadn't he said people should repay what they owe? Now Grandpa Mongol was in danger because of them, so he needed to run. He would stay and buy time. At the same time, Mongol and the others started cooking with premium crow meat and fresh vegetables from the day before. Dante ran straight to the hospital, because the person he needed was Relin. 182 looked out the window and removed the bandage from his hand, seeing it had fully healed. Then he opened one of his bags and pulled out a combat knife. Using that same bandage, he tied the knife to his hand, making it clear he had no plan to run. Back in the Tofu village, the Hound went to Qasim after hearing he'd given 182's information to that damn Bone Eater. Since Bone Eater came to him first, the Hound asked what happened. Did he get paid well, or what? Qasim said that wasn't it, then showed he was missing an ear. He had to stay alive too. The Hound grabbed him, saying he sold out that information just because he lost an ear. So what should he take from him now? An eye? His nose? Qasim told him to calm down and at least remember the rules of the underworld. He said he didn't care if the info was stolen. The real problem was that Bone Eater broke the rules. He didn't respect informants, and that's why things turned into a mess. If the Hound did the same to him, he'd seriously start crying. The Hound raised a hand and told him to go cry to his father. Did he look like a friend to joke around with? Qasim shot back, asking if the Hound saw informants as trash. Did he really think Qasim acted without thinking? But that wasn't the whole story. One of Qasim's men said Bone Eater's tongue muscles were as strong as an anaconda's, and another added that his stomach acid was like hydrochloric acid. Qasim added that when Bone Eater tasted his ear, he said it tasted like a warm beach, and Qasim had actually been born on a beach in Central America, so Bone Eater's real skill was gathering information through taste, with terrifying accuracy. That meant the information he wanted about 182 could be figured out just by tasting. The Hound was hearing this for the first time too. As expected, Qasim had thought ahead. Still, the Hound asked what good that did. If Bone Eater ate the bastard first, then what was the point? That bastard deserved to be tortured until he begged for his life, then crushed to death by the Hound's own hands. Qasim told him not to worry. He'd get him out of there no matter what. He'd already sent in someone to blend into Bone Eater's group, and their skill level was high. This wasn't some ordinary spy. They were mercenaries from District J. They were basically on the level of an armed strike unit. Before long, the premium level 10 dumplings were done. Mongol said he used the most precious ingredients in the village, and made them with all his heart, so Bone Eater should eat as much as he liked. Bone Eater removed his helmet-like gear, and his jaw dropped open on its own. He instantly sticks his tongue into the pile of dumplings. His eyes spin wildly, while his tongue starts to glow. Then he calls them complete garbage. Mongol gets annoyed, just touching them with his tongue and judging them like that. He tells him to actually eat one first. Bone Eater says he doesn't have to. He already knows there's crow meat from yesterday in it, plus carrots and onions taken from the supply box. Everything else tastes like a bucket of cafeteria scraps. He says he doesn't need a bite to know it's trash. Then he flings a dumpling at Mongol. Mongol picks it up and says he knows nothing. He spent years starving. For 10 years he lived as a homeless drifter, and stealing fruit just to eat became normal. Then one brutal winter, something changed. After he stole a bunch of dumplings, the owner didn't chase him down. Instead, he handed him another fresh batch, so warm they were almost too hot to hold. That moment stayed with him. It was the greatest gift he ever got, and he wanted to pass that feeling on. He says when the body and heart get warm, even a twisted heart can soften. So please, just take one bite. Now Bone Eater is actually curious. He wants to know what goes on in that dumpling head of his. So he lifts him up with his tongue. Mongol figures this is the end. He will probably let that doctor down again. Dante runs into the hospital, calling for Raylan. The village is a mess, and Mongol's in danger. He says dangerous people showed up, and that lunatic is trying to catch people and eat them. He keeps shouting for help, but no one answers. Still, he knows he's hiding somewhere in there. He can't let this happen, not to Grandpa Dumpling. He's always wondered how he survived back then. The day he got kicked out, he met Grandpa Mongol outside the hospital with a bag in his hand. That bag was full of dumplings. He realizes Mongol must have kept leaving food there because he was scared he'd starve. Even with that disabled arm, he never stopped. Not once. He's his benefactor, and the reason he's still alive. Still, he can do whatever he wants. To him, the real traitor isn't the village, it's himself. That seems to stir something in Raylan. He snaps, asking what the hell Dante is talking about. Back in the village, the others rush to protect Mongol. He tells them to stop because it's too dangerous, but they won't back down. Bone Eater whips his tongue around and slams them into the walls like it's nothing. His underlings jump in too. Mongol begs everyone to stop. Wasn't his life alone enough? He says he'll quit resisting, so they should just eat him already. Bone Eater refuses. If Mongol wants to satisfy him, then this is his last chance to answer. Where is that guy? Before Mongol can decide what to say, 182 speaks up and says he's here. His hand is tied to that combat knife. Back at the hospital, Raylan demands to know what Dante meant. He says he knew he was here. Now he just has to get him to fight. He knows he's going to help, right? Raylan says the old man with those trash dumplings just saved his life. He should quit pushing dumb drama. He has emergency supplies even without them. Dante says he knows exactly what that old man meant. That's why he wants his help. If the old man dies, he'll regret it later, and he knows it. Raylan finally steps out of hiding. He says the thing he regrets most is using these two hands to save a dying prisoner. That prisoner cost him his comrades, so he doesn't care at all whether those trash prisoners live or die. As 182 steps forward, Mongol calls him an idiot. Kasim's spy is pleased to see he finally appeared. He says this is the one-armed demon king, the man who wiped out the Hound gang. 182 warns them that if they touch the old man with the dumplings, even with a blade tip, he'll kill them. Mongol yells at him to stop talking crazy and run. This guy is a monster, and he's only after him. Bone Eater shoves Mongol to the ground and lunges at him with his tongue. He gives him a rough lick. The spy is stunned that he already got a taste. He quickly pulls out his notes, eager to see what it tastes like and watch that analysis ability up close. But the second Bone Eater processes the sample, his eyes go dark, then burst open with white light. Apparently, the information he took in was way too much. His gang crowds around, wondering what just happened. The spy checks his pulse and sees he only passed out, then thinks this guy's an empty-headed piece of trash. Though testing things on your own flesh does sound pretty fun. Bone Eater's gang rushes 182 at once. If he gets away, they'll be the ones eaten. Mongol screams for him to run, but he stays. He ducks under a knife and uses his own to stab his attacker several times. Another guy grabs a chair and swings for his head with it, but 182 dodges and catches it with his leg, then cuts his throat and keeps going. One lackey after another drops to his blade. Mongol is shocked. Then another thug comes from behind, and 182 stabs through his forearm. The thug just laughs. He says he is finished. His weak spot is the right side, the amputated arm. In return for surviving, he gave up his bones. He tosses the knife to his other hand and aims at him. Before he can strike, he catches the knife with his knee and drives it into the thug's stomach. 182 says that's about what he expected. Anyone who comes at him acting tough dies. The spy tells him that's enough, holding a blade to Mongol's head. He says the knife work really is impressive, just like the rumors about the one who wiped out the Hound gang. Now he wants to see what kind of talent he still has. He instantly knocks him away from Mongol, but the spy tells him to let people finish talking. He says that's better. First off, he's not part of Bone Eater's pathetic gang. He only took a job to bring him in. 182 gets it and asks if RR sent him. The spy says he doesn't know who that is, and he can't reveal his client either. Still, it would be smarter to come along. If he wants to escape Bone Eater, this is his only chance. He says he doesn't know 182's full strength, but with that ruined arm, there's no way he can face Bone Eater. He says he understands, then he'll just kill him now and be done with it. Before he can stab Bone Eater in the neck, the spy stops him. He tells him not to even dream about it. Stopping that is exactly why he's here. Then he adds that he forgot to introduce himself. He's from District J's mercenary group, the Armed Assault Unit. His codename carries more than one meaning, Mullark, and he never said he was weaker than the big fish feeding on these trash prisoners. At the hospital, Dante thinks he may have pushed too hard. This guy is colder than he expected, but judging by how he agreed to treat 182, deep down he's still kind. Rilin asks who he thinks he is, sticking his nose into other people's business. What does any of this have to do with him? He freezes for a moment, then his hand starts shaking. The truth is, this is happening because of them. Mongol helped hide them. Those people were good, and even at the very end they never gave them up. Rilin lets out a sigh. Good prisoners? He says. Dante still hasn't opened his eyes. Has he already forgotten why he's trapped here? He's a teacher, but his brain doesn't seem to learn much. His face drops at once. He thinks maybe that is the problem. He doesn't learn. Normal people matter to him. He needs good people. So what makes Rilin so special? Rejecting people who want to help and hiding in here. Is that really smart? This hospital wasn't built by his family. Is he really going to make the whole town his enemy and stay here alone until he dies out of spite? He tells him to stop clinging to that madness. This isn't about some stupid grudge. It's because he was the only one who lived. That's why he feels guilty trying to live like a normal person. He's just ashamed he still has the nerve to keep breathing. Back in the dumpling village, 182 shoves Molark back and goes for his throat, but Molark lifts his forearm and reveals a shield built into it. He says this must look like a fight between spear and shield, the shield that can block everything, and the spear that can pierce anything. He ignores him and keeps pressing in with a storm of knife attacks. Molark blocks every one and says if he had to choose just one, he'd take both. He fires a brutal blow at 182's head, but he slips past it. Molark goes on, saying he can give full focus to both sides at once, so he never has to switch between offense and defense. He can use both together, and with perfect control. Seeing that, 182 fully lets go of the bandage holding his knife and blocks the next hit. The sutures in his arm split and start bleeding hard. Molark says he only gets one choice, attack or defend. Then he pins him down. He lands a blow to the chest and shoves him back, throws a feint, then follows with the real strike. A knee straight into 182's chest. The hit sends him crashing into a building. Molark says this doesn't apply only to weapons. He can throw in a kick at the same time too. Then he notices his knife stuck in his leg, and that catches him off guard. He admits 182 isn't bad. He's got real skill. But if he throws away his only weapon like that without thinking, does he really expect it to help? He hurls the knife back at him, who dodges it just as Molark closes in with another knee strike. 182's stomach wound rips open. He swings his blade at him, but he keeps slipping away, twisting and dodging with everything he has. Molark almost enjoys it, mocking him with that smug loser face, saying all he can do is run. Then he shifts his stance. He suddenly charges straight in. Molark is caught off guard, thinking the idiot is rushing in head-on, but 182 doesn't stop. Molark is stunned again. This bastard really is trying to die. Still, instead of going for the head, he hits his shoulder, knowing he can't finish him. That's when a sharp pain shoots through Molark's shield arm, and he sees 182 pierced it with just 2 fingers. He flings him away and stares at his own hand, trying to figure out what just happened. Then, he remembers what he said. If he puts everything into defense, he can't attack, and this guy ignored defending to strike a vital point first. What the hell is he? Mongol rushes in with a pan, and Legos runs at the unconscious Bone Eater with a cleaver. Seeing both of them come at once, Molark blocks and knocks them down. He orders them to stay low and keep quiet. Do they want to die? His job is to bring this guy back alive. And what is this? He didn't cut him deep enough for things to get this bad. After tearing more of the uniform away, he finds a huge wound, so he fought in this wrecked state from the start. Still, that doesn't matter. He just can't die yet, or Molark loses pay. With his target secured, Molark thinks about his talent. Even after fighting him, he still can't read it. The body looks normal, no sign of mutation anywhere. As for reverse sati, he'll have to give up on that for now. Then Bone Eater wakes up. He says he knows this taste. It's a very familiar taste, the same one from when people messed with him while he was weak. They used to push apples and food through the bars, because he couldn't open the door. He was too weak. A guard forgot to unlock the cell, and they left him trapped there for over a month without food. So the other prisoners kept him like a pet, and played with him while waiting for him to die. One of them stupidly shoved a bunch of fog through, telling him it was rice or something. But the man pushed his hand too far through the bars, and Bone Eater bit down hard. That was the first taste he ever had, the delicious taste of fog. Back at the hospital, Dante curses himself. He never wanted this to happen. Digging into someone's pain isn't how you help them. It's just a bad habit he picked up from his brother. But Rilin says he was right. It was his fault. His coworkers died because of him. That miserable bastard told him surviving was his sin, and he deserved to suffer for it. The prisoner didn't just kill him. He tore his face right off. The other patients were badly shaken by all of it. Then they fell under that man's words, judging the outside world, and screaming that life is nothing but a circle of hell. These are the gallows, they said. Here, guilt and innocence mean nothing. It's a torture room that doesn't wait for confession. And with that, they started killing medics and other innocent people. That's how the massacre began. Relin grabs Dante by the shirt and says every word that bastard spoke was true. This is hell. He can't die, but living feels no different. He thought dying with his friends would be better, but in the end his body still fought to live. He even ate fog in the hospital like a madman, just to survive. After gaining his talent, he operated on himself at once, stealing fog from the wretches who came in, and using blood and flesh to rebuild his body. He survived with the bodies of the prisoners he hated most. It was pathetic and disgusting, and he lived that way until he became a monster. The good doctor people wanted is gone. Was this the answer Dante wanted? Looking like this, where could he even go? This place suits someone like him. He'll rot here until he dies, just like the lunatic prisoners. That was the fate he accepted. He can only wonder what kind of awful fate that is. He remembers how his brother mocked him the moment he picked his teaching subject at this prison. Sweet potato farming and basic science. Stuff from elementary school. He really wanted to be an elementary school teacher. Dante snatched his things back and asked why he was putting himself through that. His brother was shocked he meant it. Had he lost his mind? Their father would go crazy if he found out. He didn't care what any of them thought. His life was his own, and none of them had the right to interfere. His brother said he was only worried. So after all that, he wanted to be some simple babysitter? Wasn't being a teacher just pathetic? Dante shot back that his brother was obsessed with perfect fancy jobs and status. But he was trash, just like their mother and father, monsters who always tried to control him. He said he'd never become garbage like that. Even so, the road he chose for himself twisted away, pulling him far from what he really wanted. He started thinking it would be embarrassing if people saw him teaching little kids. That happened because his heart was never really his to begin with. The one who shaped him was just another monster. Dante says he's wrong. That wasn't a fate he chose. It was karma forced on him long ago by that cursed prisoner. Someone like him was never meant to end up as trash like that. He tells him to look at Dumpling Village. In this hell, it's the one place where rules and morals still exist. The old man built it with his own hands and became its true master. Raleen asks why that should matter, even as the chain on his heart starts cracking. Why is Dante so hung up on doing all this in a rotten dump like this? He tells him plainly. He's the one who taught that old man everything. He taught him that even in this dump, life still matters. He taught him to live with dignity, like a person. Isn't that right? He was the one who taught him. He should remember what the old man went through too. In those early days, he came every single day, swearing this would never happen again. He talked about the dumpling shops, getting electricity, and opening more stores. Even when dumplings piled up, he cleaned them out and told him not to skip meals. He taught him to take care of his body too. And even then, he saw what his teaching had done for that old man. So who was the real teacher? The monster who controlled his life, or someone else? Those words finally break the chain on Raleen's heart, shattering it completely. Mullerk has no idea what Bone Eater is babbling about. He thinks the guy has totally lost it and decides this is a waste of time, so he dashes past him. Bone Eater trips him with his tongue, then lashes out at once, driving it toward 182's chest. Mullerk blocks it and warns him not to touch him. This bastard is his prey. Bone Eater answers with a storm of tongue strikes, and Mullerk keeps defending, only to realize he can't even cut the tongue. He tries over and over, but nothing works until he's sliced up and bones start sticking out. As Bone Eater tightens in, Mullerk can't believe it. He didn't leave even one scratch. This isn't the Bone Eater he knew. Bone Eater throws Mullerk aside and lunges straight for 182. Mongol jumps in front of him and tells Legos to grab the boy and run now. Legos yells back for him to be careful and get out too. Bone Eater can't understand why Mongol is blocking him. Why take away his food? He should hand it over so he can eat right now. Bone Eater pulls back a huge punch, and before it lands on Mongol, 182 rushes in and shoves his hand into Bone Eater's mouth. Bone Eater's eyes light up with joy. Mullerk asks if he's insane. Is he really letting himself get eaten like that? Mongol yells too. They risk their lives to save him. So what is he doing? 182 only says he has to pay back his debt, and Mongol cries out. Even Bone Eater starts crying, because this taste once saved him from his endless hunger. To him, it's a gift from the gods. But something feels wrong. Why can't he bite through the arm? His jaw hurts, and he can't move at all. That's because Relin has arrived. Everyone is stunned when Relin shows up, especially Mongol, staring wide-eyed at him again. Relin yanks a pair of medical scissors out of Bone Eater's jaw so hard it shatters completely. Mullerk is left wondering what the hell this guy even is. How did that bastard's jaw get ripped loose? Relin ignores him and grabs 182's hand, saying he treated it carefully, and now it's ruined. This is getting annoying. He pulls his hand back and glares at him like a mad kid, and Relin just calls him an idiot. Mongol keeps crying, asking why he came out here now. Relin doesn't answer. He only spins the scissors in his hand and says there are way too many disasters around here. This village doesn't seem safe at all. Then he strikes the charging Bone Eater again, protecting them. That's when Mongol realizes his old friend is really back. Bone Eater tries to move after Relin hits him again, but his body won't respond. Mullerk is shocked. He's stopping him with just scissors? Bone Eater screams, asking who the hell he is and what he did to his body. Relin tells him to bark all he wants, but at least speak properly. Bone Eater whips his tongue around, and Mongol warns him to dodge. it won't be cut by those scissors. Relin slips under the tongue and tells him that no matter how amazing his body looks, to him, he's still just a broken pile of cells. Using his power, he reads straight through the tissue and tendons inside the mouth, and finds the weak point where the tongue connects. Then he darts in and slices with perfect aim, ripping the tongue muscles apart. Everyone is stunned, and Bone Eater takes the full hit. Relin says the muscles are completely torn, so the tongue will curl back into his throat and block his airway. Just like that, Bone Eater stops being able to breathe. He frantically claws at his own tongue, trying to rip it out, but it doesn't help. At last he drops to the ground, totally beaten. Nobody can believe it, he actually went down. That monster, Bone Eater, is finally dead, and the great demon lord, the Demon King, saved their village. The whole place erupts in cheers, and some people even start dancing. Mullerk is more amazed than anything. Relin took down one of the big ones so fast. Were there really monsters like him here? Relin quickly starts an autopsy, opening up the stomach and confirming he really had eaten people. Still, human flesh doesn't have much muscle, which makes the whole thing bizarre. Then Mongol walks up and drops to his knees, apologizing through tears. He admits he couldn't keep his promise to build a real village. He failed to change these people. Trouble keeps coming, and maybe they really are beyond saving. Relin cuts him off and says that's enough. If he's so desperate to prove something, he needs to stop forcing that promise and keep the first one instead, staying safe. Mongol apologizes for everything. Dante returns and sees the fight is already over. It ended too fast. This guy is way stronger than the big ones. Still, maybe he finally made the right choice. If this makes them willing to go back to Relin, then he has room to bargain. But then people start shouting that someone collapsed, and it's 182. He runs over at once, asking why he's here, and why he didn't leave. Seeing his condition, he asks if he was fighting, after being told to get out. Did he really think he could win in that state? He calls him stubborn and stupid, demanding to know what he was thinking. But 182 only asks why he's so mad. He just wanted to help the old man. A small crack shows in his face as he wonders if he got it wrong again. That is when Dante finally sees him for what he is, just a small, innocent kid. He realizes he did the right thing, and did it well. Now he's starting to understand this place a little better. Even so, he wonders why 182 suddenly looks like dandelion fluff. He rubs his eyes, and he is back to normal, staring blankly like always. After treatment, he slowly wakes up and finds Relin behind him, sewing his suit. He says those are his clothes, and Relin says he knows. Then he asks how old he is. From a biological view, people with those strange powerful abilities have all been trapped here more than 20 years. But his organs are fresh, practically untouched, so he's clearly still just a kid. 182 argues that he's an adult now. He just used to be a child, making Relin ask what kind of nonsense that is. He says that means they're the same, and Relin asks how. By age? Is he stupid? That makes him mad right away. He snaps that Relin wouldn't get it because he's a doctor, not a teacher. Relin shoots back that doctors don't become doctors by being dumb. He's probably smarter than his teacher. He tells him to quit lying. Relin just shakes his head, thinking this guy has zero common sense, and asks if he isn't a prisoner. Was he born here? This place has been a sealed cage for over 45 years, so children being born here wouldn't be strange. 182 casually says he was here from the start, which is exactly what Relin meant. Relin tosses the uniform into his face and says he had the wrong idea. He tells him they'll be back soon, so don't move and stay lying down. If he farts, he needs to report it. With that, he says they're even now, right? Dante shows Relin the map, and when Relin asks if the exit is marked, he says no. You can't leave through the entrance or exit. Some giant device stops prisoners from escaping and kills anyone who tries. It sounds crazy, but he saw it himself. He's heading to central headquarters to meet the administration bureau. Relin asks what he plans to do there. He already warned him the bureau won't side with him. Dante says he doesn't care if he has to camp on their doorstep or burn the place down. He has to try. They're the only ones who might know how to get out. Relin says fine, but even if he finds an exit, what about his body? It's already poisoned by the fog. Looking at the map, he says once he's out, he thinks he can quit. Drugs are hard to escape when they're always nearby, but if he gets far away for good, his body should recover. If withdrawal like limbo kicks in, he'll find help. His father is a scientist. He can bring experts together and push research forward. Once this gets exposed, it'll cause a huge scandal and speed everything up. Relin says that's not the problem. Hasn't he looked in a mirror yet? When he does, Dante sees one of his eyes has turned blue from the fog. Relin asks why that shocks him. Anyone who lives here long enough ends up like this. He wonders when it started, but it seems the moment Relin warned about is here. Now he'll start craving fog too. Will that limbo thing happen to him as well? It's completely unfair. He never even used fog. He doesn't have powers either, and he's still doomed. Relin asks what's the issue. Didn't he just say he could recover? Dante refuses to accept it. An addict's life only ends in despair and ruin. Relin confirms they've tested this on prisoners. If someone stays in limbo too long, they slowly lose their mind and eventually fall into a coma. And if that happens outside, where there's no fog at all, it won't just leave him like a vegetable. Even knowing that, is he still going out? 182 walks in and asks what's wrong. Rilin immediately asks why he's up when he was told to stay still. He says he's hungry, but Rilin says he needs rest. When he asks why, Rilin says he still hasn't farted yet. He asks if he should force one out, and Rilin tells him to stop saying stupid things. Dante admits the situation is bad, but he's leaving anyway. This place is not the life he wants. Over the next few hours, Rilin packs up everything he owns, clears out the hospital, and leaves it empty. They head to the village, and Mongol thinks this is wonderful. He really made the right choice. Rilin is finally leaving this place. Legos asks him to stay a little longer, since winter is almost here, but Mongol refuses. They won't stop them from going. They're returning to where they truly belong. He shakes his hand, amazed that someone from outside came to help in a way he never imagined. He shakes back and promises he'll get Rilin out safely. Mongol thanks him deeply, but he says he should be the one giving thanks. Then they hand over a huge bag packed with top-grade dumplings. Mongol laughs and tells them to hurry before dark, while everyone waves them off. Just before they fully leave, Rilin turns back to Mongol one last time and tells him to show his hand. Mongol pulls away and says those dumplings were made by his students. He really did keep his promise all this time. Rilin catches his hand anyway and asks if he can move it properly, because back then his overall condition was awful. That was all he could do then. But if they meet again outside someday, he'll treat him the right way. Mongol sees the tears in his eyes and just smiles. With that, they leave the village. The woman from earlier, the one with the bag over her head, watches them go. A doctor and a teacher. Now that's interesting. Then RR calls her. She answers and says his timing is perfect. That one-armed guy wasn't as strong as he claimed, right? He didn't die though. Someone saved him. Looks like he even made a few friends on the way. RR scoffs and ends the call. How is that even possible? How could a guy like that have friends? He moves to what seems like the center of the prison and wonders how much fog is left. At the bureau meeting, he says they only have enough usable fog for 5 more years. One member points out that if that's true, they may already be too late. Can this even be finished in 5 years? RR hums and says he needs more exceptional talent. Another man says using normal people is no longer realistic, and suppressing the public has limits, especially for the kind of talent he wants. RR only says winter is coming, and asks if the supply boxes are ready. A person at the table stands and reports that they plan to send 500 boxes in total. They'll contain daily goods like clothes, bedding and soap, food like flour, grain powder and seeds, plus building supplies like cement, lights and generators. There will also be tools like wire saws, hammers and screwdrivers, and only 10 Glock 19 pistols for weapons. That's all. RR says that's too ordinary. Shouldn't they add gunpowder too? This is the foundation, after all. Don't just give them fish, teach them how to fish. He says he'll adjust the plan. The man asks if he really heard the report, and RR says yes. They don't have time left, and his father was right. The right moment will come for sure, so they need to stir up an even bigger storm this time. Somewhere else, a woman is thinking about carrot soup. After the citric acid cycle passes, it triggers ATP production. Then it makes her feel like she's still alive. Out of nowhere, a girl who looks a lot like 182 walks up and asks if she's okay. Lara thinks an angel has finally come to take her to paradise, because she has nothing left tying her to this cursed world. The girl gently pats her on the head and says she's not an angel. Then she asks if Lara feels sick anywhere, since she hasn't eaten in days. That snaps Lara out of it, and she demands to know who she is. The girl flinches a little and introduces herself as Brun. She says she's here to clean and apologizes for scaring her. Lara is thrown off seeing someone this young here. Brun tells her she needs to eat or she won't have any strength. Then she adds that Lara should know that better than anyone, since she's a teacher. For a moment, Lara forgets her madness and asks who Brun is. What is a kid like her doing in a place like this? Brun shyly counts on her fingers and says she's already 17. That makes her old enough to clean, but she still says Lara needs real food or she won't grow properly. Lara's eyes go wide as she realizes Brun is still just a child. What is she doing here, and where are her parents? Before Brun can answer, another woman walks over and knocks Brun on the head, telling her to stop slacking and get back to cleaning. Before she can drag her away, Lara steps in and grabs Brun's wrist. She demands to know why this woman is treating a child like that. Why hit her at all? The woman snaps back that it's none of Lara's business, and Brun can't even feel pain anyway. According to her, Brun doesn't feel pain, so Lara should keep out of it. Gary is already treating her well, and getting mixed up with this child will only cause trouble. With that, she slowly pulls Brun away, though Brun hangs on for a moment longer. Then Brun just gives Lara a small, awkward wave, while Lara watches them leave. Rilin removes 182 stitches and tells him to get dressed again. Dante is shocked. There isn't a single mark left. Of course, that's because Rilin heals at the cellular level. He asks if that power came from fog, and what kind of ability it is. Rilin says it's focus. He fixes a sharp stare on 182 and explains that when he focuses, he can see every tiny detail, almost like a microscope. That helps him treat people, but it also lets him spot weak points in the body, find where strength comes from, and boost it. Since a lot of people here only rely on raw power, that skill helps him stay alive. For the first time ever, he feels embarrassed. Dante says if he had an ability too, he'd want something amazing like that. Relan asks if that means he wants to take fog, but he says no, he's already poisoned. He was only wondering what if. Relan explains that while the mist has enough fog to poison everyone, gaining an ability takes a huge amount. He doesn't want to turn into a monster that craves fog, especially with how dangerous it would be outside. Still, Dante sometimes thinks that if he had an ability, maybe he could be like normal people, trust himself and move forward instead of getting trapped in his own head. Relan tells him he already had great focus from the start. Fog isn't some random prize. It boosts what a person already has. Strong nerve signals and body changes are its real nature, so if someone has a clear strength, you can roughly guess what kind of ability they'll get. Dante says he doesn't have any special talent, and Relan tells him to quit being so humble, but he insists he's serious. Relan says no human is born with 0 strengths. He still says it's true, he's useless even here. What a miserable life. 182 cuts in that he's pretty talented at shouting, and he tells him to shut up. Relan says a talent doesn't have to be obvious. He points to this kid's strange healing ability. He recovers like this not just because of his power, but because of his whole body. His healing goes way past what a normal person could ever do. Dante thinks about 182's recovery, and realizes that's not all. He can run faster than Rambutan, and hit hard enough to crush a shoulder in one strike. There's nothing odd about it. In this world, some people really are completely useless, while others are born with several gifts at once. If 182 is one of those people, then maybe he just hasn't learned enough yet. Dante asks him to repeat what he said about the high-ranking leader. An idea suddenly clicks for him. The key to opening Fogland's sealed gates might be right in front of him. He says 182 mentioned it before. If someone becomes a high-ranking leader, they can get out. Relan asks what he's talking about. Dante explains that Fogland has a legend. Someone with endless talent will become the god of liberation and free everyone here. He knows it sounds crazy, but stories like that don't come from nowhere. Then he asks him if he really thinks it's only a legend. He seems to shrink back into his bag, thinking these lunatics keep talking to him and none of it makes sense. He takes that as proof he knows something. After all, 182 said it too. Only a high-ranking leader can get someone out. He looks at him and says something is wrong. Why does Dante want to become a high-ranking leader so badly? He says he doesn't care what that leader is. If it can help him escape, he wants it. 182 reminds him he already said he can't do it, but he pushes back. Doesn't he have a ton of talents? Then shouldn't the legend give him a chance? Before he can finish, he raises his arm and points out that he doesn't even have a hand. Dante knows he's doing it again, dodging the real topic every time. It's driving him insane. After everything they've been through, he thought they were closer than this. The time has come. At the very least, 182 should understand his place, why he can't stay here, and how badly he wants out. He says he doesn't understand, and then Dante realizes it. He never planned to let him escape. So what has he been doing all this time? Just following him for fun. Looking back, he never gave a real answer about anything. What crime got him sent here? Why does he hide his head with a paper bag? What's in that luggage? And what is his real talent? He doesn't even know his real name. Who is he? Then he suddenly sees him as a child again, telling him not to do it. Right after that, 182 runs off. Dante trembles with rage. He's seriously about to lose his mind. Relan says the bastard left without his bag, so he'll come back. Night falls, and they light a small fire in the corner. 182 still hasn't returned. Looks like he really left. Maybe that's for the best. He was unstable, impossible to talk to, violent, and always causing problems. Truth is, Dante never even told him the plan. He figured he wouldn't understand anyway. And besides, wasn't he a criminal? He can't imagine someone like that living with them. They only crossed paths in here. It's unfortunate, but this is where it ends. As he checks the bags, Relan asks what he's doing. He says he's curious what's inside. Maybe in that bundle 182 always hides. There's something that could help them. Relan asks why he's searching someone else's stuff. What is he? A thief? Dante says no, and besides, the bag has no owner now. Relan says that's not true. He should come too, because unlike him, he's not a criminal. He asks what the hell that's supposed to mean. Relan explains that once, he treated a very young patient here, one of Fogland's babies. Has he heard of them? One day, a worried man came to him and asked him to visit their home to examine someone, because the patient couldn't make it to the hospital. When Relan opened the door, he saw the man's child. Relan asked how that was even possible. He said he'd report it to the management office right away and ask for help, but the father begged him not to. He said something terrible would happen. So terrible that Relan should pretend he never saw them. The people running this prison would never help a child like his son. Children born and raised in Fogland are called the babies of Fogland. There aren't many of them, but not so few either. So Raylan thinks 182 was probably born here too. That truth slowly hits Dante, and now he finally gets it. Having a child in Fogland and raising them here, out of all the twisted things he's seen, that may be the worst. Raylan says he still had to report it after that, and the father and son fled the village right away. But ever since then, he's wondered what that horrible thing the father feared really was. Maybe the one who needs saving most isn't either of them, but that boy. 182 sits alone in the dark, thinking about the sweet potato he couldn't grow and wanted to show him. He's in front of the guardian statue whose teeth he broke, and he still doesn't understand any of this, so he wants her to come back. That mother who fell from the sky, he begs her to send an even stronger storm and stop his steps, make it so his eyes can't see, until only the sound of a heartbeat remains, so they can know they are one. 182 asks someone to come back soon and tell him how to stop this storm. Inside Queenstown, the Queenstown leader sneezes from the cold. She can feel winter coming, so it's time to switch out the supply box. Then she asks if they're all ready to fight. This is Gary. One of the girls points out they've saved that box for 5 years to hand it to the Kundalini team, so this round should be easy, right? Gary asks if she's really saying they should just hand it over. How can they be this spineless? They have to win, no matter what. Lupin says that's not what she meant. The sisters keep getting hurt. Another girl cuts her off and warns her not to keep talking unless she wants to end up like North. Gary snaps at her to shut up. This supply box matters a lot this time because she plans to give it to her little cutie. It's a present for her while she's feeling down. After the meeting, Gary says she must have been shocked that she announced the gift in front of everyone. Didn't she see their faces? They were jealous to death. Doesn't that make her feel a little better? Lara says she's not a kid, and those faces didn't really look jealous. With a fight coming, everyone just looks nervous. So what even is a supply box? Gary brushes it off as nothing special, just stuff the administration office drops every few months, like a random gift box. Lara gets that it's probably supplies but asks why they need to fight over something like that. She says she doesn't need any of it, and Gary doesn't have to give her presents either. Gary insists there are some really good things inside. Even so, Lara has another question. She saw a girl nearby, Brune, or something like that. Gary's expression turns dark. The woman who told Lara to stay out of it grits her teeth too. Gary asks if she's interested in that girl. Lara says it's just that someone that young shouldn't be in a place like this. Gary smiles and says that must be the teacher in her. She really likes kids. Then she coldly adds that she doesn't like them at all. They're annoying, and she doesn't care what happens to them. Before Lara can ask more, the bald woman grabs her shoulder and calls her crazy. Why does she keep pestering Gary with useless questions? She already told her not to get involved or interfere. This whole mess is because of Brun. A little later, they head up to the roof, and the bald woman tells her Brun was born here. Lara is stunned, but the woman tells her not to act so shocked. It happens a lot with women who escape the women's zone. Lara asks why they don't report it to the administration office, but the woman says there is no administration office for them. They can't contact anyone, and no one steps in no matter what happens. Does Lara really think most people here are guilty? From the start, there was never any way back to their old lives. All they can do is survive here, so she should stop bringing up the administration office. Especially around Gary. Here, nobody can openly show how badly they want to escape. Brun's mother was a good person too, innocent just like Lara, and Gary killed her. Elsewhere, Dante keeps talking with Raylan. He says 182's parents had to be prisoners. He never got any schooling either, and he was probably exposed to the fog from birth, like a child born to addicts. It's not that he's hiding who he is, he simply has no identity. Even his name, Raylan asks, isn't it David? Dante shuts that down and asks why he keeps bringing up that name. He just made it up back then. He stands and thinks even this guy can be awkward sometimes, then says he's going to the bathroom. While he's there, he keeps thinking it over. A child born from the fog. They aren't the only innocent people trapped here. Something completely insane is going on. And still, no one speaks up for their rights or even their basic dignity. Has total cruelty tamed everyone here? What kind of hell is this, and why was it made? Then the moon seems to turn into his brother's face, asking if finding a reason really matters. Does he seriously need to get mixed up in a place like this? He's not some hero or revolutionary. The only thing that matters is getting out alive. He should think straight and choose wisely. He doesn't have time to worry about everyone else, instead of shrinking back like he always does. Dante tells him to shut up. If this place taught him anything, it's that his choices haven't always been wrong. He heads back to their hideout, and Raylan notices the change in him, and asks what's up. He says they need to find 182. He thinks the same way he does. Now that he knows his past, he can't leave him alone in a hell like this. He also thanks Raylan for not turning him away. Raylan awkwardly scratches the back of his head and says that's just the normal thing to do, as long as you're human. He says it really isn't that simple. Just look at where they are now. Back then, Raylan could have left the dumpling village and escaped alone without any trouble. That would have been the smartest way to survive, but he couldn't do it. Like he said, maybe he's slow to learn, but Dante thinks he made the right choice in the end. After all, the person he wants to save more than anything is a good person, just like him. So this time, he's sure he won't choose wrong. Raylan asks how they're supposed to find 182, and he says he has the perfect bait. It has to be in that bundle. He opens the trash bag and finds it's mostly just garbage, a real heap of junk. So why does he guard this stuff like treasure? Raylan spots the sweet potato and says he's hungry, so they should roast it. He sets it over the fire, but Dante lunges in and snatches it away. That's the bait, he says. Luckily, the potato is fine. It still seems fresh because it was stored so carefully. He also notices a tiny root has started to sprout, barely growing, but growing all the same. Even in a rotten place like this, it's still alive. The next morning, two people find 182 and ask what his problem is. How can he sleep so peacefully in someone else's territory? He lifts his head and says he wasn't sleeping. One of them tells him if he's awake, then leave. The place is huge, so why bother them? Can't he see the X on the ground? That's where their supplies get dropped. The other guy cuts him off, asking why he'd say that out loud. This spot is supposed to be secret. Even the zone leaders don't know about it. As they argue, they realize there's only one answer. They'll have to get rid of this brat. 182 just stares at them, then points at himself, confused. He stands up, and the two men realize he's bigger than they thought. Still, they have guns, so they tell themselves not to panic. One of them pulls out his homemade gun and says he's from the Technologia crew. He brags that he's a master at making homemade firearms. And the next leader too. The one beside him jumps in and says he's Wilson, assassin of the Technologia crew. If he had to describe himself, he'd say he has perfect pitch. 182 starts walking toward them right away, and they nearly lose it. Wilson yells at the other guy to shoot, but he doesn't fear the weapon at all. The guy spins the gun around, clearly too scared to fire, and when Wilson tells him to do it, he admits he can't shoot a real person. Wilson says he'll do it himself, but 182 snatches the gun first and presses it right to Wilson's forehead, finger tight on the trigger. Wilson can tell he's really about to fire. The other guy instantly screams for him to wait and calls him boss, begging for mercy. He says he'll roll around if told to. He'll even bark like a dog and starts doing it on the spot. Wilson awkwardly joins in too, but 182 tells them both to shut up. After roughing them up a little, he asks what a supply box is. The first guy asks if he's new here, and Wilson says he's crazy strong for someone who doesn't even know that. The other explains that it's like a gift box filled with useful things. They even make weapons like this from supply box items. Wilson adds that those boxes are why they have any firepower around here. The other guy says not everyone gets one. Usually only 2 or 3 drop in each village, and most get taken by the bosses. The place 182 is sitting on is one of those drop spots. They only know about it because it's far away, so even the bosses missed it. Since they shared such valuable info, maybe he should join the Technologia crew. He asks if supply boxes have sweet potatoes. That throws them off, and one guy says crops are always included, stuff like seeds he could plant himself, but 182 says that's not what he asked. He asked if there are sweet potatoes. The first guy says probably. Sure, if seeds are in there should be some. He could grow hundreds of sweet potatoes, and he stares hard at him. Somewhere else, Dante suddenly yells. He shouts that the sweet potato he cared about so much has finally sprouted. His little potato took its first step, so is he really going to stay away like a parent who never sees their kid? Dropping to his knees, he apologizes for pushing it too hard and swears he won't do it again. Raylan wonders if this is seriously the plan. He says 182's hearing is insanely sharp. He can catch sounds from hundreds of meters away. If he's close, he'll hear this for sure. Raylan tries another tactic. He puts a scalpel to the sweet potato and warns that if he doesn't show up right now, it's over for it. After a moment of silence, he lowers the scalpel, saying maybe 182 doesn't care that much about the potato. Dante insists that's impossible. He's dead serious about them. So where is he? Then they look toward the cafeteria. All of a sudden, Raylan notices something and tells him to look. Helicopters fly in carrying crates. The two of them look up, then bolt toward them. Dante starts waving like it's an SOS, but Raylan says the pilots won't notice. Better to follow the drop and see where it lands. So they run, and the other prisoners start chasing after it too, along with 182, while the Technologia crew spots the crates as well. Just like they said before, the latch on one crate opens, and a parachute pops out, sending it down toward them. Then a huge flock of crows appears and starts hauling the crates away. The two are stunned, while 182 just gets annoyed by the noise. The Technologia crew chases after the crows, and one crate drops nearby. It lands where a crowd of prisoners has gathered. Dante and Raylan stare at it. He asks what it is, and Raylan guesses the administration left it, maybe fog gear or something. One prisoner asks who gets it now. Usually it would go to the tower, but he's gone. Someone suggests splitting it, but with this many people, that won't work. Another says they should open it, and whoever grabs something first keeps it. Then, a baby-faced guy stops them, saying the rules don't change just because the bosses are gone. The strongest gets the box, so anyone who wants it has to fight him for it. Another prisoner likes the idea. It's been a while since he threw hands. A bigger prisoner joins in too, saying this could decide the new boss, and someone else agrees. Now 4 of them stand over the box. One winner takes it, and nobody argues. Relin wonders what's inside. Dante grabs his shoulder and says they should take it themselves. Relin asks if he wants him to step in there. He says they need to know what the administration left, and when Relin points out the huge crowd, he teases him for being shy. Relin finally gives in. He sets down 182's things, pulls out his medical scissors, and tells them all to back off, unless they want to die. The 4 men turn to look at him. Other prisoners whisper about the doctor's coat, and wonder where he even got it. The fat guy laughs that he's way too skinny for this, and another with wild hair says he's acting tough for no reason. Babyfaced says that makes 5 total, so the numbers are off. Does he want a free ride to the finals with 1 punch? Relin shrugs it off and tells them to come at him together. That ticks Babyfaced off. He says fine, he'll beat Relin first and fix the numbers. Relin focuses and uses his ability. The fog in their blood is barely there. This guy doesn't seem talented at all. He's just slow, with no real power. Those muscles are all for show. Relin slips past the punch with ease and tightens his fist, then smacks him hard in the jaw. The guy hits the ground and instantly starts bawling like a baby. The others get nervous, but try to brush it off. He was probably just weak, and size still matters. The fat guy gets mad and shouts, charging at Relin, saying he'll show him what real weight does. Relin studies his legs and realizes the extra weight gave him bad arthritis, so 1 kick to the shins drops him on the spot. The last 2 are shocked and freeze up. Relin doesn't wait. He already told them to rush him together, so he charges while they scream in panic. When it's over, the whole fight is done in 1 sweep. Who even are these guys? One prisoner says maybe they'll take the tower's place and become the next boss of Steel Alley. Another says maybe they already are. If they beat the tower, the Drillhead's crew, and even the Hound's crew, then they must be those 2 men with glasses, the teacher's crew. The others go quiet and stare at them in awe, until Relin snaps, asking what they're all looking at. Do they still have business with the box or not? The older prisoner quickly says no. From now on, the box belongs to the teacher's crew, and Steel Alley belongs to the brothers too. Relin asks what he's talking about. The old prisoner says the one with glasses is the teacher, right? The man who wiped out all the bosses before. Dante stiffens as the rumor spreads and gets even bigger. Still, it's better than getting looked down on. So he steps up and declares that he is the teacher, the one who sets everyone straight with his great lessons. Does anybody have a problem with that? If not, then they better not make him lecture them from now on. Before he can finish, the older prisoner begs him to save Steel Alley, since they have no boss now. Thugs from other areas keep raiding them. If the teacher brothers punish those people, they'll even pay protection money. Dante freezes again. This is not what he meant. Relin asks what nonsense he's talking about. He still tries to sound tough, saying he's a ruthless boss, so why would he protect them? Why help a bunch of bastards? Their situation is sad, sure, but they have to defend themselves. The prisoners go silent. The older one says, they just don't have the strength. Dante looks at their helpless faces. Hundreds of hands fold together in front of him. They don't even have one blanket left. If the looting keeps going, they won't make it through winter. They'll all die. He wonders what this even is and what exactly he's looking at, when a loud gunshot snaps him out of it. Everyone turns toward the sound, and the prisoners panic over what it means. The shot came from one of the Technologia crew. The first guy says he was wondering where the crate went, but it only landed in Steel Alley. Good, it's a dump with no boss. Relin wonders what those idiots want now. The older prisoner says it's them, the same bastards who've been robbing everyone with guns. The Technologia crew points their weapons and orders everyone to raise their hands. Did they all come here because of the box too? A crow may have dropped it here, but now it's theirs. The old man protests that a helicopter dropped it, but the Technologia guy doesn't care. Got a problem with that? Want a hole in your stomach? Then he points at Dante and Relin, telling them to step away from the box if they don't want to get shot. Before Relin can move, he grabs him. Even he seems surprised by his own confidence, as he tells Relin to wait. Those bastards can't shoot. The people threatening them with guns can't actually fire. Relin asks if he's sure, and before Dante can answer, Relin rushes them. The Technologia crew instantly yells that they'll shoot, and he grabs his head in panic. But just as he guessed, they can't pull the trigger. Relin drops the first one with a punch, and kicks Wilson's gun away. So it's true, they really can't shoot. How did he know that? Dante pants, wondering how he somehow noticed something no one else did. Wilson immediately calls it an emergency, and reaches back, begging the boss to help them. That boss is 182, watching from a barrel not far away. Elsewhere, another crate has already been found. A woman stands by it with a nasty grin. She calls out to Kundalini, saying it's been a while. Kundalini says they're not the type to trade greetings. This is Kundalini, second in command of Yo Dong. She came for the box, and Gary tells her to get off it. Kundalini sighs. Gary is greedy. After killing and taking so much, she still doesn't know when to back down. But today, neither can she. Gary loves hearing that. Everyone heard it. The coward Kundalini is finally going to fight. What a show. She hopes the sisters are ready to throw down too, because she'll rip their tight-suited heads off. Kundalini shouts for her to stop. If they fight, it's just the two of them. No dragging innocent girls into it. They settle it here, today, with their lives on the line. Both crews are shocked, and Lara realizes Kundalini isn't a coward at all. She's a real leader. Lara remembers what the woman said about Gary killing Bren's mother. Compared to that monster, she would rather have been taken by Kundalini. Gary rushes in right away. To her, that offer sounds perfect. Kundalini leaps off the box to meet her, and uses her agility to dodge the first blow. Gary keeps swinging again and again, but Kundalini avoids every hit. Even Lara is surprised by how flexible she is. Kundalini asks if Gary sees now why they call her a tendon sorcerer. Raw strength can't solve everything. Gary, though, is just thrilled by how fun this is. At last, someone is really fighting her. Gary catches her leg and throws Kundalini aside, but Kundalini doesn't give up. She wraps her whole body around Gary's neck like a human knot. She says Gary thinks everyone avoids her because they're cowards, but someone who believes brute force solves everything will never understand. That kind of person could never truly protect anyone. She tightens the hold, and Lara cheers for Kundalini, but Gary barely feels it. She asks if Kundalini knows why she wraps her tendons around her neck, because too many people try to assassinate her. She grabs Kundalini's legs and starts prying them apart, making her scream. Seeing that, Kundalini's crew ignores the one-on-one rule and attacks Gary all at once. Lara is shocked, and even more shocked that none of Gary's crew moves to help. The force Kundalini built was paper-thin in the end. This pathetic leader is finished, but then Gary starts using her tendons, and blasts everyone back. They go flying in every direction. Gary glares at Kundalini, and makes her repeat it. What exactly does she think she can protect? Kundalini looks back at her, and tells her people to run, but Gary doesn't let anyone get away. Once she's done, Gary carries the box over to Lara. She even smiles and calls her little bird. That makes Lara realize there's no escape now. Back in Steel Alley, Dante is shocked to find 182 with the Technologia crew, and even more shocked that they know each other. He just stares at all of them. He can't figure out why these guys keep calling him boss. Then Raylin walks up and snaps at him to quit fooling around. What is he doing? Doesn't he have anything better to do? He can't even move far, yet he still makes life harder for everyone else. 182 only narrows his eyes at him, full of clear disdain. Then, Rillin pulls off his mask, and it turns out he was just pouting. That catches Rillin off guard, and he awkwardly apologizes. He still says nothing, and Dante realizes he wasn't pouting at all. Now he sees something around 182 too, something massive and crushing, like it's pressing down with no way out. He has no idea what he's looking at. This doesn't feel like some random hallucination. It's so real it almost seems touchable. So what is this thing? Dante crouches to 182's height, and asks if it's really him. What's wrong? Why is he buried under all that? Should he pull him out? Then he snaps him out of it with a punch straight to the nose, saying he heard everything. Dante tried to kill his sweet potato. He grabs his nose, sure it's broken, while Rillin is stunned that 182 actually heard that. He tells them to kill him if they want. He doesn't need that sweet potato, now that he has 300 of them. He just stares. 300 sweet potatoes? Rillin clearly doesn't buy that the box is really full of sweet potatoes, but 182 points out that he's staring at them too. Annoyed, Rillin tells him to stop messing around, and hand over the box. He's got something to say too. Dante chimes in that they can share it, right? Like friends. He gives him a hard look and says it's his, not friends. That really gets Rillin mad. He walks over to the trash bags they brought, and asks whose stuff this was again. The teacher told him to throw it out, but he kept it anyway. Maybe he should have burned it after all. 182's face turns cold, and he tells him to hand it over because that's his too. Rillin says if he wants it back, he can take his box and come with them. He calls him a greedy bastard. Rillin's stare sharpens as he asks if he even knows why he's doing this. Then he brushes it off. Forget it. Explaining it to an idiot is pointless. He'd rather cut out his tendon and drag him along. At that, 182 grabs Rillin by the throat. The prisoners are stunned. The Technologia crew and the teacher crew are actually fighting. They're shoving shoulder to shoulder now. The prisoners start cheering for the teacher crew, while the Technologia side mocks the teacher as a nobody and tells 182 to show them. Dante can only think, what the hell is this? Then he remembers what Rillin told him last night. What if he refuses? What if he doesn't want to leave? Rillin didn't know why he suddenly ran off, but maybe he's avoiding the whole escape plan. He's been saying it all along, that he can't leave, that anyone who tries dies, and there's no way out. Rillin thought that only meant nobody knew how to survive out there. Dante wasn't so sure. Maybe 182 had given up on freedom. Maybe he'd gotten used to the fog and didn't want a world without it. Rillin admits that could be true. He used to be the same until he pulled him out. When Limbo gets close, his mind falls apart. He even used guilt as an excuse. There were times he wanted to stay in Fogland forever. Now he even carries the hospital staff badge, and all he wants is to get out. Dante looked at him and said that if that's true, then 182 might really want to stay here. He has no reason to leave. He doesn't know the outside world, and nobody's waiting for him there. This gray place may be all he's ever known. And since he has survived here this long, leaving would be a huge risk. If he says no, maybe they should respect that. But Relin said he'd save him anyway. Somehow, the two of them would save him, even if they had to cut his tendon and take him by force. He started to get up and asked why he'd go that far. Relin said it's because he can't do this anymore. He doesn't want to leave anyone behind ever again. This is Relin trying to save the people he couldn't save before. The regret is still eating at him. There's no way 182 would understand that. As the prisoners yell for a fight, Relin tells him to stop, or he really will cut out his tendon. He tells him to try it, and he'll kill him for real. The prisoners go wild, with some yelling for Relin to stab his eyes out with scissors, or just hit him. Soon everyone's shouting for blood. Cut his head off, hang him up, strip all his fog away. The Technologia crew isn't any better, yelling that their boss kills people and telling him to hurry up and slit his throat. Hearing the crowd scream for murder and seeing Relin's hand tighten, Dante finally shouts for everyone to stop. The whole alley goes quiet. He demands to know what they're doing. They're grown adults, yet instead of stopping this, they're cheering it on. Kill him first, kill him. Can they even call themselves human? Do their lives mean that little? The prisoners freeze. He's truly furious, and his voice hits like thunder. Then Dante turns on the gunmen too. Are they seriously acting like they're any different? From where he stands, they're all the same. Rude, disgusting, and pathetically cold. The second they get a little power, they turn into animals. If they love strength so much, then live by it. Don't beg while pretending to be pitiful. Those are the rules they made. Then he turns to Relin and asks what he's really trying to do. He should just say it plainly. He wants to help 182. Relin loosens his fists and says to forget it. He might not even know he needs help, but Dante says they still have to try. He turns to him and asks if he wants to leave with them. Leave Fogland. Isn't he curious about the outside? There are way better things out there than sweet potatoes, things he's never even tried. But before Dante can keep going, 182 seals himself inside a coffin-like shell made from something unbreakable. He asks what kind of stupid talk that is. Does he have a death wish? He saw the hollow one, didn't he? He tells him not to worry. They aren't going to the wall. They're heading for central headquarters. Chains keep wrapping around his fortress as he swings side to side and tells Dante that won't work. He's not going there. Then he points at his head and asks what that thing is. He's a teacher. How does he not know? People wear that to hide, which means he's running from the center. Somewhere else, crows gather around after carrying a huge pile of airdrops into one place. Someone remarks that they really collected a lot. They must have been starving. Pretty little birds. But that's okay now. He can feed them all they want. Then the bird he was talking with, Gonzalez, suddenly flies off. The hairy man gets it right away. It spotted something else over there. Something shining. The Technologia crew sits outside the wrecked building, while the three try to talk things through. The prisoners wonder what they're even discussing. One Technologia guy tells them to mind their own business and get lost. The boss is handling something important, but a prisoner fires back that this is their turf too. Wilson points out that they already know each other. Just look at how friendly they seem. Their boss really knows how to deal with people. If that's true, maybe the teacher crew and Technologia crew could team up in there. But the mood isn't friendly at all. Relin has 182 pinned down, demanding to know what he means by classified. Why can't he give one straight answer? Dante groans and yells at them to stop acting like little kids. Why can't they just talk? They can't even have a normal conversation. Relin snaps that no matter what he asks, all he says is classified. What is he? Some FBI agent? He sighs again and crouches down, saying they should review what he actually told them. He was born in the center. He doesn't know who his real parents are, and the people who raised him were from the center too. He is on the run now, but the reason is classified, right? Relin asks what this center even is. Enough with the word games. Is he talking about the administration bureau? Dante asks if talking about them is dangerous. Dangerous for him. After a short silence, 182 says it's dangerous for everyone. Anyone who gets in their way. He figures that by they, he means the administration bureau. He goes on, saying he doesn't know much about things like the administration bureau, but in the center, there's a monster. It's probably still hunting him. The only reason he stays ahead of it is because he keeps listening to that monster's heartbeat. Even so, if they're going to the center, he doesn't want to go. Relin lets go of his clothes and asks what he means by monster. He's throwing out all this crazy nonsense, but what are they supposed to do with that? If he wants them to think about the plan, he needs to give them something useful. Dante says that's fine. The plan doesn't change. The three of them are getting out of here, but they can't charge in blind. They need a smarter plan. Right now, their top job is learning more about the administration bureau. A little later, 182 still can't get the crate open. Relin points out that he said it was his business alone, then wonders what kind of jerk he really is. Dante asks if an ability can show up without fog. Relin asks if he means from fog, mist, or something like that. If that's his wish, he can keep dreaming, because it's not happening. He asks a different question. What if an ability already woke up? Relin asks what he even means. Some power to yell really loud. Annoyed, Dante says no. Earlier, when he looked at the gunman, he saw scared snails and turtles. That's why he said they wouldn't be able to shoot. Relin is stunned that was all he had to go on. He almost got himself killed. He tells him to hear him out. This wasn't the first time. He saw something around him too. Something huge pressing down on him. It was probably the weight of the secret he is afraid of, and the missing mouths felt like a sign of someone forced to stay silent. And it fits with the other things he's seen, like the desperation of the people here. Relin asks what he's trying to say. Does he think he can read minds? Then, what's he thinking right now? Dante looks at him and doesn't see anything strange. It just looks like the same old Relin. He says he's probably thinking he should stop talking nonsense. That shocks Relin, because that's exactly it. He sighs and takes off his glasses. He says they should forget all of that. He's probably just tired and seeing things. He doesn't believe it's real. Even if some ability showed up, it couldn't be something like that. Reading other people's thoughts is his brother's thing. After all, 182 keeps messing with the box, wondering how to open it. Should he smash it? Can he even do it with one hand? Relin asks if he wants help. He shuts that down right away. He doesn't need them. While they argue, Dante stands and says if they want clues about the administration bureau, this box is the best place to start. So why not figure out how to open it together? 182 reminds him it's his. Dante agrees, but says he's only trying to help. Friends can do that, can't they? He says they're not friends, and he already said he isn't going with them. He asks what that has to do with anything. They can still be friends even if they're not going the same way. Even if they split up, that's what friends are. People from different worlds who meet and slowly grow alike. 182 says no. Friends are supposed to be alike from the start. Then he just tells them to open it for him. If he knew it was like this, he'd have traded it for a sweet potato, especially if there are more than 300 in there. Dante and Relin stop listening and start opening the box anyway. They cut the straps off fast. This came from the administration bureau, so what did they stuff inside? He opens it, and Lara does too at the same time. Inside is all kinds of stuff, starting with a first aid kit and basic supplies. Toiletries, tissues, razors. There are clothes too, and Lara hopes there are shoes. Then she knocks over a toolbox and spots something that looks like a gun, but it's only an electric drill. If it had been a real one, she would have blown Gary's head off. There is more inside too. Rebar, planks, even cement. Are they trying to make the prisoners into builders? Under that, there's a sheet of plywood. After she lifts it, she finds a set of chemical supplies. She pulls it out and opens it. Lara is shocked by what's in there. Oxidizers, nitric acid, hydrogen peroxide. This is way too dangerous. Why would prisoners get any of this? Still, these are materials she knows well, since she majored in chemistry. Dante checks his box too. After pulling everything out, it turns out to be mostly mass-made daily supplies. Nothing that looks like a real clue. Relin points out there's a ton of clothes in here too. He realizes that's where all those people in casual clothes got them. Dumpling Village had a lot of them, so they were probably sharing boxes like this. Now Relin gets why there are construction materials too. Dante agrees. Most of Fogland's buildings were made by expanding the original cells, and these supplies were probably used for that. That's what makes it weird. The prisoners rebuild the prison however they want, and make their own little kingdoms, and the administration doesn't stop it. They help it. They even drop supplies in random places, which obviously makes people fight over them. Relin picks up the chemical kit too. What's all this for? Aluminum powder, chemicals, all kinds of ingredients. He says he studied life sciences, but even he can tell these are dangerous. What are prisoners supposed to do with stuff like this? This place is full of idiots, like that guy still looking for sweet potatoes. Still, hydrogen peroxide and ethyl alcohol could help with treatment if they're diluted right. They should save some. 182 is crushed. There really are no sweet potatoes. Relin tosses him a packet of sweet potato seeds. He opens it right away and finds nothing but seeds. He asks how anyone could confuse that with a sweet potato. Do they think he's stupid? Dante tells him it is a sweet potato, just a tiny baby one. 182 instantly pockets them. He, meanwhile, realizes this haul is a lucky break. It's exactly the kind of supplies they needed. At last, they can do more than wash with plain water. They can actually get clean, especially him. They drag 182 to the washroom and start splashing water on his face. He's baffled. What are they doing? Why spray him? They should use the water on clothes if they're going to wash something. Relin says he reeks like a dog that hasn't been bathed in forever. Dante backs him up. Since arriving here, he hasn't even splashed himself once. He asks why he would. He says because he's human, and humans need to wash. He even brings up Semmelweis and Nightingale. Cleanliness saves lives. Relin says right now he's basically one giant walking germ, and his teeth are probably rotting too. 182 says that's not true. Raylan splashes him again and points out he uses his hand after going to the bathroom, and he didn't even have toilet paper. He's disgusting. That hits Dante in a whole different way. He starts dodging the water with surprising skill. Raylan grabs 2 showers at once, asking why he's making this such a huge issue. 182 spins through the air, and Dante spots where he's going to land. He throws a bar of soap at his feet. He slips, hits the floor, and gets soaked by the first wave of water. Annoyed, he jumps up and asks why they're attacking him like this. He hurls soapy water at him and says he's broken his line of sight. This is their opening, and with that, Raylan rushes in with a sponge and scrubs him down hard. But for 182, it brings back a memory. Everyone being bathed in a huge white room, water hitting their bodies. His friend was always afraid of it, so he would hold her hand and make sure she knew she wasn't alone. After a while, all of them are finally clean, and 182 actually cleans up really well. Raylan is completely worn out. He says even his grandma's cat didn't fight this hard. Dante thanks him for the effort. He really lost it over a simple bath. Maybe he's scared of water. Good thing food is his weak point. He warns them not to ever try that again. He asks how he feels now. Isn't being clean nice? He's wearing fresh clothes, drinking good milk, and finally smells decent. Dante adds that he's pretty handsome too. Actually a real pretty boy. He'd probably be super popular at school. Raylan agrees and says he looks like a troublemaker who rides a motorcycle, has tattoos and smokes cigars. He takes a deep breath of the outside air. Raylan notices people staring at them. He says unless they want laundry trouble, they should stop wearing normal clothes. The 3 of them stand out way too much. He says who cares? He doubts anyone still wants to mess with them now. They have the white warrior Raylan and the barbarian 182. Maybe it's the bath, or maybe it's the fresh air, but Dante feels calmer than ever. More than that, they're together again. The strongest squad, the teacher crew. He's feeling so good he doesn't notice the crow on his shoulder. The second he does, it scares the hell out of him. He tries to swat it away, but the bird just keeps cawing at him. 182 watches, while Raylan says he's suddenly itchy even though he just washed. He is staring at one spot. He tells him there's something right behind Dante. He slowly turns around and sees a flock of crows, and their hairy master, looking way too happy to find them. He recognizes the hairy man. He's one of the shoulders, no doubt about it. He was in Dante's class. Raylan steps in front and asks who this hairy guy is, and if he knows him. He says he's a shoulder, one of the people who started the riot in his class. Raylan immediately pulls out his cutting scissors. He reminds himself he has backup now. With these 2 beside him, he really has his own crew. Raylan tells the hairy man to get lost while he's still asking nicely. The hairy man asks if he's a friend of the teacher. Doesn't matter. Gonzalez is his friend, and Gonzalez wants that teacher. 182 suddenly rushes in and throws a punch at the hairy man, but it passes through without doing any damage. He basically hit empty space. Then the hairy man wraps his hair around 182. The hairy man uses that opening to throw another kick. Before it lands, Raylan slices through the hair binding him. He drops to the ground, and Raylan tells him this is what happens when he charges in blind. Maybe he should think for once. Once someone grabs his arm, he's useless. He snaps back that it isn't true. He could have landed a hit if Raylan had let him. Raylan ignores that and studies the hair. It's moving by itself, so his power comes from his hair? Is it really tied to his follicles? And with all that hair, the guy probably can't see much either. Fine, then he'll just cut it all off. Out of nowhere, 182 steps on Raylan's head and launches himself forward again. This time, he notices the guy has less hair on top, and the hairy man catches on right away. He whips the hair around his head to block. 182 barely has time to react, and gets slammed into some boxes again. Raylan can't believe how dumb he is. That's obviously not normal hair. They need to cut it first. If he is just going to be an idiot, he should stay out of the way. He argues that he had a plan too. What would a doctor know about fighting? Raylan shoots back that it's funny hearing that from someone who got wrecked by a doctor. Then he rushes the hairy man, telling him to shut up and watch. But 182, still acting like a kid, charges in too, saying it hurt the first time and the second time as well. The 2 start arguing right in front of the enemy, shoving and grabbing each other. Dante can only stare, wondering if these are really the unstoppable fighters he trusted. Thinking that was a mistake. This is a complete disaster. Who starts acting like little kids in the middle of a fight? The hairy man just claps, clearly enjoying it. He wonders why Raylan can't be decent for once. He was trying to help 182, and why does he always lose it around Raylan? His temper seems even worse now. Put these 2 invincible fighters together, and somehow they cancel each other out to 0. Then the hairy man gives a much louder clap. He thanks them for the entertainment. It was fun. After that, he releases a huge wave of hair and spreads it everywhere. It whips right into their faces. While they're distracted, the hairy man suddenly leaps for Dante and latches onto him at once. He grabs him like slime, then bounces away with him, getting farther and farther with loud boing sounds. 182 instantly moves to chase him, but then he hears Raylan coughing hard. Raylan drops to his knees, clutching his throat. It looks like an allergic reaction, maybe from the soap, maybe from the hair. 182 looks toward the direction the hairy man fled, then back at Raylan, and chooses to stay with him. Once the hairy guy reaches his hideout, he pulls Dante out. He asks where he is, but the hairy man only says, "Hi, him." He recognizes him as the one guy in class who laughed at his joke before. Maybe that means he can be talked to. So Dante stays calm, hoping he can work this out. He greets him and asks why he wanted to bring him here. The hairy guy says it's for Fog. Why else would he want the teacher? Gonzalez wants Fog too. He guesses this guy must be Gonzalez, but he quickly says no. Then he pulls a crow from his hair and explains that Gonzalez is his friend. Dante gives an awkward smile. So Gonzalez is the raven. Is he saying the bird brought him here to make Fog? The hairy man eagerly says yes, and he thinks everyone in this prison is an idiot. He explains that he doesn't buy it. Ravens are smart, sure, but not that smart. They might like something bright and noticeable like Fog, because it's shiny. They're clever and curious, just not to that level. Maybe instead of Fog, he should offer Gonzalez what he actually wants. For one thing, people think ravens and crows only eat rotten meat, but they prefer fresh meat. They also like high nesting spots, so they can watch everything below. He pets the raven and asks if he isn't right. Then Gonzalez suddenly tells him to stop the nonsense and start making Fog, so the raven really can talk. After that, Dante gets tied to a post with his hands bound, and a bag over him. He keeps wondering how the crow talked. Was it a fog power? Maybe, but why couldn't animals use it too? It's insane. A talking animal. If this were published, the academic world would lose its mind. Still, that's a dumb thing to focus on right now, especially after seeing humans leap across rooftops. What matters is where he is. It's pitch black. And can those two even find him? Should he sing so they can hear him? No, that's not the real issue. First, can they even make it here safely? Without him there, those two will obviously keep fighting. In Dante's head, Rellin is too emotional, and 182 is too spiteful, which makes him imagine the worst and shout in panic. Really, expecting true teamwork from him was never realistic to begin with. The only thing holding them together was bribing him with sweet potatoes. Even now, 182 is only staying because of the word friend. Rellin's guilt, which probably means nothing to him, and whatever tiny bit of conscience he still has left, that fragile thread is all that's keeping him with them. Even today, Dante forced a bath on someone who hated being touched, treating him like a machine, then baited him with a banana drink. Because it works. Even the smallest thing can make him happy. And in the end, he chose to do it. Because someone who doesn't think much can't really choose for themselves. 2 years earlier, he met Relene and demanded he make him an arm. Relene, still shaken by everything that had happened, got annoyed, and said unless 182 brought a real arm he could stitch on, it was pointless. He said he didn't mean an arm like Relene's, he wanted a normal arm. Relene yanked up his sleeve and asked if this looked normal to him. If 182 liked it so much, then after beating him, Relene would make his other arm match. Since he was already weak, Relene started searching him for Fog, digging through his pockets and everything else. At the same time, he tearfully begged for help, saying he wanted to live. But Relene didn't even notice. He found the Fog and ran off laughing. In that moment, he saw the sun rising over the horizon, just like now, and it brings those days back. Then he hears a steady heartbeat. It's Relene's heart, which means he's still alive. His heart hasn't stopped. 182 carries him to the technology crew. They're not doctors. They can tell his heart is beating, but he's not breathing, so they have no idea what they're supposed to do. One of them asks him what happened, and how Relene ended up like this. He asks why the doctor is hurt, but that's exactly what they're trying to figure out. If this keeps going, he'll die. That hits 182 hard. Relene is dying. The technology crew notices his expression and wonders what that look is about. Wasn't Relene his friend? He remembers Dante saying Relene wanted to help him, and admits he doesn't know. They ask what that even means. If he doesn't know, why bring him here? 182 says he really doesn't know. He just wanted to do something. He remembers watching Relene sew his uniform back together, and being strangely impressed by it. So he tells them to shut up and save him already. The technology crew instantly shrink back under his presence. The blonde guy asks what this is and why 182 is pissing him off, while the other says their boss is seriously worried. So what are they supposed to do? Tennis Ball Head says he knows one way. He never wanted to use it, but as long as he's trapped here, he'll never meet a woman anyway. Then again, maybe this is fine too, with a man like this. So he starts mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. At the same time, he imagines happily marrying Relene, who suddenly wakes up and smacks the hell out of him before coughing water from his lungs. Everyone is stunned that he's alive. The blonde guy quickly asks if he's okay. Relene catches his breath and asks where he is. The technology crew tell him he was basically dead for 5 whole minutes, and 182 carried him here. Relene looks confused, then asks what happened to Dante. He says the furry human took him. Relene gets annoyed that he let him escape. If it was because of him, he should have chased the teacher instead of doing something pointless that doesn't suit him. 182 glares at him with open disgust. and the technology crew tell Relene not to act like that. After all, he went through all that to save him. He adds that Dante is still alive. He can still hear his heartbeat. Relene knows from him that he can do that, and sighs. Now he owes him again. A useless doctor like him. As he sulks a bit, Relene actually thanks him, so he's not completely clueless about loyalty after all. Tennis Ball Head tries to point out that he's the one who really saved him, but Relene ignores him and says he hates owing people. Next time, 182 should suffer until he's begging to die, because Relene will be the one saving him then. After that, he turns to the two who treated him and asks if they know the fuzzy shoulder. The blonde guy asks if he means the fuzzy back. Relene says probably, so they should tell him everything they know about him. The blonde guy asks why. Did they run into the fuzzy back? Tennis Ball Head asks if Fuzzy beat the hell out of them, and Relene kicks him into the ground for getting on his nerves the whole time. Now the blonde guy says that would make sense. If they really beat the Bone Eater, then maybe no one in the East can stand up to Bude. Fuzzy Back is a whole different story. He isn't really one of the East's shoulders either. He just carries an Eastern number. He wanders through nearly every district. Like a disaster people pray will pass by. The second he appears, everyone drops what they're doing and runs. Around here, people say if Fuzzy Back wants something, sooner or later it becomes his. Relene asks how many people are in his crew, but he doesn't have one. He moves alone. Then again, you could say he has the biggest crew of all. A strange flock of ravens follows him, and other nameless people seem to follow the ravens too. Fuzzy Back doesn't call himself a shoulder or run things like a gang, but every place his horde passes through gets ruined. That's why they need to leave before they lose everything. Relene refuses, because the teacher was taken. The blonde guy realizes that's why he wasn't there. The teacher beat Sector 0, and he can't believe he couldn't stop it. Relene asks what Fuzzy Back's ability is. Truth is, nobody really knows. There is a rumor he has two abilities. One lets him control his hair in weird ways, and those strands are so tough, they feel more like steel than hair. But that's not all. Sometimes he kills people without even touching them. Just like what happened to Relene. But Relene says it was an epileptic shock, more like an allergy, a severe immune reaction that made him pass out. The blonde guy thinks an allergy sounds minor, but Relene explains allergies can block your airway and kill you. Tennis Ball Head wonders if that means Fuzzy really has two abilities. If so, is he closer than anyone to becoming the supreme leader? Relene thinks that if he can control his hair, then he can control his follicles and the muscles around them. So maybe it isn't the hair itself getting stronger, but the muscles. As for the allergen, it's probably proteins from his dandruff, dead skin, saliva, or something like that. The real question is how those two things connect, or if he really does have two abilities. He pulls out a strand that had been caught in his clothes. Then he asks 182 if he swallowed any of Fuzzy Back's hair too. He says he swallowed around 300 strands. Relene asks if he feels itchy anywhere, but he says no, it doesn't affect him at all. If that allergen is being used as a weapon, then most people aren't immune, and their bodies treat it like a threat. For some reason, this guy's immune system is different. He's the only one who can fight Fuzzy Back. Relene asks if he wants to save the teacher. 182 says he doesn't know, so Relene tells him to think hard. Can he work with him and follow his lead? If he can, Relene says he'll stop treating him like a kid this time. He wants to ask a favor, adult to adult. Then he calls over Tennis Ball Head and asks if his gun really works. Back where he's being held, Dante is getting fed by a crow. It's giving him seeds and whatever else it found off the ground. He can't help laughing. What is he, a chicken? A bird trying to feed him is just absurd. He jokes that the bird must be Gonzalez, then says if it understands people, they should talk. Since it can speak, it should quit pretending it can't. Dante slips out of the bag and grabs the crow, asking if it thinks humans are a joke. The crow only keeps cawing. He is pleased he finally caught it. Did it really think a flimsy plastic bag could hold him? And why hang his glasses on a string? Did it think he couldn't see without them? He admits the bird is pretty clever, but it must not know some people wear glasses for style. That just proves how dumb it is. Sure, he may be at the bottom here, but he can still hurt it, so it better open the door first. Right then, the door opens and Fuzzy walks in, saying it's time to eat. Dante instantly cuddles the crow like a baby, and says it's really cute. Fuzzy Back is happy to see they've finally become friends. They start a fire, and Fuzzy calls him amazing for even knowing how to make one. Dante brushes it off like it's no big deal. They're eating canned food, but he is surprised Fuzzy actually brought him something decent. He asks what Fuzzy's name is. Fuzzy says that's just what people call him because he's hairy and fuzzy. He figures that's only a nickname, so doesn't he have a real one? Fuzzy shyly says his name is Nico. Nicholas, actually. At least, he thinks it was. Dante says that's a nice name, and asks if he can call him that. Nico wonders why nobody here uses it. He asks if he doesn't like it. His parents gave it to him, so it should feel more familiar than some nickname. Nico blushes and quietly wonders if that's true. From the way Nico talks and acts, he can tell he's gentle. If he builds trust, he can lower the danger and maybe learn something about the administration too. He can't just sit around waiting for Relene and 182. He has to handle this himself. Dante asks if Gonzalez has an ability too, something he got from the fog. Nico asks how he knew, saying he really is smart. Then he confirms it. Gonzalez got fog and became intelligent, maybe even smarter than him. He gets it now. That ability must be why he seems able to talk. Ravens can copy human sounds a little, but this was still shocking. He figures there was just a misunderstanding earlier, so he wants to apologize. But Nico says Gonzalez can't talk. He wishes he could, because there are lots of things he wants to ask him. Dante is thrown off. He clearly heard him speak, so how did Nico know Gonzalez wanted him? Can he actually communicate with him? Nico says he can tell by Gonzalez's movements. He leads him places and shows him what he wants. Whether it's something he wants to have or eat, Nico wants to give him everything he asks for. Dante understands, but now he's wondering if he hallucinated earlier. Why did he hear that? And why has stuff like this been happening lately? Is he losing it? Nico says Gonzalez is the king of the ravens. He points out that Gonzalez brought all of these here with his flock. He is stunned by the pile of supply boxes. He wonders if the birds carried them, since they look too heavy even for a dozen ravens. But Nico says they did. Gonzalez raises very strong ravens. If Dante wants to see more, Nico says they should go feed them. They head to another warehouse. There, Nico hands him a bunch of seeds and tells him to scatter them on the floor. He does. At once, a flock of crows swoops in. They all have blue eyes like Gonzalez. They grab the beans and seeds, but they don't eat them. Instead, they fly off with the food, and Nico says they're finally going to feed them, so they should follow. They do, and the crows drop the seeds on the ground. Then a group of people appears. They pick up the beans and seeds and start eating while the crows keep feeding them. Dante is shocked to see real humans, and asks what they even are. Nico says Gonzalez raises them, and they do whatever he orders. He can't understand how, since he thought Gonzalez couldn't talk. Nico says real friends don't need words. Gonzalez commands the ravens, and the ravens command those people. He wonders if they're slaves, human slaves controlled by ravens. It's insane. So is Nico a slave too? He says Gonzalez thinks they're cute, but Dante just finds them disgusting now. Now he gets it. The hairy guy wasn't the real threat, the raven was. Then Gonzalez gives one loud cry, and the birds instantly start pecking at the humans, driving them off somewhere, probably to the village to loot it. Gonzalez asks Dante if he sees now. This is who he really is, so he should never get cocky again. Now he understands. It wasn't spoken out loud. He was hearing it not through his ears, but straight in his mind, even clearer than normal sound. The swagger, the arrogance, the pure sharp force of it. It feels just like when he looked at the princes, like seeing something in its truest form. Is this his real ability? While the technology crew keeps arguing, one of the prisoners from earlier comes over, after hearing they were trying to calm the boss down. He asks what happened. Tennis ball head snaps back, asking who said that was his boss too. Why is he still here? The prisoner says, this is his turf. The blonde guy says that must be nice, but this isn't the time to argue over territory. The village is already finished now that Fuzzy showed up. If they want to live, they need to run while they still can, if getting out alive is even possible. The man is horrified hearing that, then just sags in defeat. What are they supposed to do about it? Unlike them, he says, these people have nothing left to lose. They've already had everything taken. Tennis ball head stands and asks if he really wants to die, but the prisoner answers seriously. He says he doesn't care. If the only thing left in this prison is your life, then how is that any different from already being dead? Tennis ball head argues it is different. If you're alive, you can still hold on to something, still find somewhere to sleep. Otherwise, that's just pathetic. The prisoner asks what they're supposed to do when people like them leave them with no blankets and no firewood. They were never surviving this winter anyway. Now it's just certain. That leaves the technology crew speechless. Then two more prisoners rush in, saying they're completely screwed. One of them tells Paul to grab his stuff right now. They have to leave the snowfield camp immediately. Behind them, screams start rising as flames spread. So Fuzzyback's crew really did show up. With wild strength and crazy obsession, they tear through the prisoners and strip them of everything. Above it all, crows circle and watch. Rillin and 182 move off, and Rillin asks why everyone's screaming. Then he brushes it aside and says the real problem is that he can't get close to that guy. He's allergic. He hands over something called epinephrine. Rillin says he'll try to stay in control, but if he starts losing it and drops like before, he has to stab him with it right away. Then he asks if 182 can still hear the heartbeat. He says it suddenly got way too loud. To pick out one heartbeat, he has to focus, but the noise is drowning everything. His ears are packed with static and clutter. Rillin grabs his ears and tells him to focus. Block out every other sound. If he locks in, he'll find it. 182 does exactly that. He hears countless sounds, like doors swinging open. One after another, he starts shutting them until only a red door remains. Behind it is the heartbeat he always follows. It's the one that keeps him safe, but he shuts that door too, until only one heartbeat is left, far away. He knows it's Dante. Rillin says he just needs to hold that focus until they reach him. He's pretty sure these guys are causing all the noise, and says it while dropping another one. Fuzzyback's crew stares at them, confused, but it's obvious they're about to attack. 182 says it's fine now. He can hear the heartbeat clearly. That makes Relin smile. He asks where it is. He says it's farther ahead. Relin tells him they're out of time, so they'll clear the path while moving. Then the two start smashing through the cavemen, who can't do anything to stop them. Plato once said that behind this changing world is something eternal and unchanging. The ideas are what's real, and everything else is just a flawed copy. Dante starts to think that's what he's seeing now. The more he looks with his eyes, the less clear it gets. The more he listens with his ears, the more it slips away. Right now, he may be staring straight at reality. He can't deny it anymore. This is fog's true power, but what can he even do with it? A human brain can barely handle what it's showing him. All he can really see is a pitch-black demon face, bloated with hunger and desire, and there's something hidden inside it too. He wants to know what it's hiding. How did an animal like that end up with such a twisted craving? Before Dante can make it out, the crow in front of him suddenly drops stiff to the floor. He asks what happened. He pokes the crow and realizes it's not dead, just frozen. So what hit him? Then Nico rushes in and demands to know what he did. After those doors shut, Nico wraps Gonzalez in cloth and hopes he isn't hurt. Dante says he probably just wore himself out. It's late, and Nico agrees. He then asks if they really are friends. What if Gonzalez is only using him, same as those people outside? Nico shuts that down. Gonzalez is the only one who treats him like a friend. Dante pushes back. Gonzalez used him to gather fog, grow stronger, even build a slave army. Is he really okay with that? He should think hard about it. Nico says those people followed on their own. They wanted to be like him, so they copied him and Gonzalez. Gonzalez didn't do anything wrong. He asks why Gonzalez wants so much fog at all. Why would an animal need that? He may not be as harmless as Nico thinks. That crow's real nature is a demon that wants to rise above humans. Nico says he doesn't care. Even if Gonzalez is using him, he'll still do whatever he wants, because Gonzalez is the reason he's still alive. Back then, everybody avoided him. When he went to the chow hall, they kicked him out for smelling bad and ruining their appetite. He was worn out, starving, and desperate, begging for scraps, but no one helped. Instead, the shoulder on that side cursed him out and said he'd already warned him not to come whining near the restaurant while he was in charge. Then, acting nice, he said if Nico was hungry, he could have some soup. They brought over a whole pot, saying soup was perfect for someone cold and starving. But instead of feeding him, they dumped the boiling soup all over him. While he screamed and cried, they laughed. He remembers the heat, and how freezing he still felt. There was a carrot floating in the soup. Before he could eat it, he spotted the crow that always came to him, the thief that kept stealing his food. Even then, he gave the carrot to the crow, and it started pecking at it. People treated him like trash, but he still fed the bird because it had to be hungry too. He felt like he had nothing left to give, so when he died, he hoped Gonzalez could at least eat his body. Even that felt impossible, since he smelled so bad. But that night, the crows came to him. The next morning, he woke up somewhere else, somewhere safe. He wondered if that same crow had done it, and there it was, perched in his hair. From then on, it never left him. When he made it through winter, the boss of that shoulder called him a filthy rat for surviving. He'd thought Nico was finished that day. Then he said it had to be the fur, that nasty, creepy fur. He grabbed a knife and started shaving him, and that's when something inside Nico woke up, because his friend was living in there. They could do anything they wanted to him, but they were not touching his friend. So he tore that shoulder apart. That led to him becoming a new shoulder, though he never cared for the title. Now does Dante get it? Even if Gonzalez is rotten all the way through, Nico doesn't care. Whatever Gonzalez is, he'll stay beside him, because Gonzalez stayed beside him first. That's why he has to make fog. No matter what Gonzalez is, Nico will always obey him. Just then, one of the slaves runs in, yelling that there's a problem. 2 lunatics have shown up, and they say they're here for the teacher. Dante knows exactly who that means. Those 2 really found him. He figured they would, sooner or later. But Nico's whole mood changes at once. His hair starts rising as he tells the slave the teacher belongs to Gonzalez. Dante tries to calm him down, saying there's no reason to fight. Nico ignores that and walks off, ordering the slave to keep the teacher locked up. He says he'll deal with this and come back. They storm into the warehouse, cutting down crows and slaves. Relin asks if this is the place, but which building? 182 doesn't answer that. He only says the target is coming. A moment later, Nico steps in front of them. Relin is glad they finally found the damn furball. Nico figures they're here for the teacher, and Relin calls him a bastard and says yes. He says Nico's pretty greedy, considering how many friends he already has. Getting here was a pain too. Killing all those crows was annoying as hell, so he should give back the teacher, their friend. Since Nico clearly doesn't like sharing, Nico says fine. If their friend matters that much, they'll settle it and see who's the better friend. Relin asks 182 if he remembers the plan, and he does. Then he charges in. All he has to do is buy time, while Relin searches for the one crow controlling everything. Relin already told him he's on his own against that fuzzy monster. Relin will kill the crow causing the allergy, then they'll jump him together. Otherwise 182 will just get in the way. He was okay with that. He fights better alone anyway. Relin got that, but still told him to listen first. If he fights like last time, he'll end up on his back again. He just showed him a sword and said he brought a real one this time, not that skewer he used before. Relin sighed and said it wouldn't matter. He already saw the fur grow back even after being cut. So what he needs to do is simple. His whole focus should be staying out of reach. He can't let even one strand of fur touch him. He should treat it like dodging shower water, just like before. And one more thing, keep his center of gravity low. Remember when the teacher threw soap at him? He gets knocked off balance way too easily, even by one arm. The second he loses footing, he'll get overwhelmed no matter how strong he is. 182 asks if Relin is basically telling him to run away, but that's not what Relin meant. Nico starts wondering what he is doing. Why does he keep backing off? Why won't he fight straight on? Wasn't he supposed to risk his life for his friend? He is doing that, just the way Relin told him to. Draw out those long strands of fur, tangle them together, and stop Nico from moving. That will create the opening. And when it does, 182 will use the one thing he's best at, hitting a weak point in one strike. That's his aim now, because Nico's ear is completely exposed. At the same time, Relin keeps watching the crows because he worked something out. There's no way Nico has two powers, both fur control and that allergy trick. Relin doesn't buy it. The answer is probably what was above Nico's head the whole time. The crow bloated with fog. Crows are animals. Humans are animals, so both could have fog powers. That crow must be the one causing the allergy. So where is it? Back in the warehouse, Dante sits with the slave and clicks his tongue. He's never felt pressure like this before. Not once since coming to Fogland has he felt pressure like this. He wonders if those two can really handle that guy. Then again, they should be fine. They're both strong, and they've already taken down plenty of soldiers. But if Nico loses, is that really the end for him? Is there really nothing he can do? In this world, only the strong survive. So how did he end up in a place like this? From what he's seen, Nico is a kind person, and now someone like that has to butcher people just to stay alive, only to die that way too. Then he hears something behind him as Gonzalez slowly gets back up. Disgust hits him right away. If not for this bastard, none of this would have happened. He can't believe some beast played with human lives like this. He grabs Gonzalez by the neck and asks if he slept well. Gonzalez points out how awkward this is. While he was passed out, his friends came to save him. Those two are strong too. They've already cut down half the soldiers. They'll probably reach Nico soon. Doesn't that bother him? They're friends, aren't they? That's what Nico said, and he believes it. So does he really need fog that badly? Enough to push Nico toward death? He doesn't buy it. Gonzalez has wings. He can steal enough fog to keep that tiny body alive whenever he wants. Honestly, with how small he is, just breathing here should be enough. He should think this through. He doesn't need more fog. Or does this beast want to stand at the very top? He needs to stop hiding behind silence and say it. That cocky voice still echoes in his head. He wants an answer. What does he really want? Friends? No chance. He found one easy fool and used him the whole time. He tears apart Gonzalez's fake, cruel front, and then he sees what Gonzalez really wants. What he's wanted all along. Half of a broken carrot. Dante suddenly knows this is why he's chased Fog for so long. Because Nico always shared his food with him. Even when he had almost nothing left, he still shared. And Gonzalez shared back in his own way. That truth says more than 1,000 words. It's right in front of him. Gonzalez stayed with Nico through everything. But after all this time, after so many years, the crow beside Nico had grown old. And more than anyone, he knows his end is close. That's why he wants Dante to make fog. He finally understands. His time is running out. So he wanted to make as much fog as he could for Nico, stockpile supplies, and gather as many friends as possible. Gonzalez tells him Nico is a fool because he's different from humans. That's why he's weak. Unless it's for someone else. He can't even hurt a fly. He can't steal fog. When winter comes again, he won't be alive anymore. Now Dante feels awful. He was the arrogant one. He thought Gonzalez had some huge desire no crow should have. But it was really love deeper than he could measure. Before 182's attack can hit Nico, the crows swarm around him. At the same time, Gonzalez rushes straight at him. It's one final desperate move to save his friend. Relin catches sight of him at once. He lines up the shot and pulls the trigger. The gunshot marks the end of Gonzalez's journey.